We have a... And if you have people that are watching or potentially want to watch at home, you can let them know that it is being streamed through Turtle Island News, and that's going out over YouTube, I believe, and as well as Facebook, so Facebook Live. So if anyone wants to watch, they can do so if you want to let them know that. And as we've been announcing over the radio, it is also going to be streaming live from the radio station as well, so people can listen. At CKRZ FM. And I'm just waiting to make sure that our feed is, that we're set up at the station. I'm just waiting to see word back from our person at the station. Yes. Correct. Yes, there will be certain amounts of time for things that proceed this evening. I think it's about 6, so Gary, whenever you want to go live, we can start the event. Or are we already? We already are, thank you so much. Okay, so just to let you know that the way that it's going to work this evening is, and we were just asked this, the candidates will be asked questions. They will also be having an opening statement that they're allowed to make. They will have 5 minutes each to make that statement for themselves. And then we will move into the question period. As I mentioned earlier, if you have questions, and there's more people coming in, which is great to see, if you have questions that you would like to put forward to the candidates, please grab yourself a pencil and a piece of paper from the back table. There's also water there if you'd like to get some water. and write that question down. It can be handed in, and they'll be brought up here, and we'll look at those questions as we proceed throughout the evening. Actually, just before we get going, does anybody have any general question that they have? Yes?
Yeah, I want to know how you are fairly distributing the questions and who put the questions together.
I can answer that.
Sure.
The questions themselves, each one of us here will be out. I'm Linda, by the way, from Turtle Island, in case anybody didn't know. This is Lisa. She's a reporter with Turtle Island News, and you are?
I'm David Moses with CKRZ FM.
And I want to actually at this time take a minute just to introduce our candidates. The two people who are strong enough and got enough guts to actually do this, Steve Williams and Councilor Sherry Lynn Hill. And welcome them both here tonight. And thank you both very much for participating. Now, as far as the questions are concerned, we will ask questions to get the ball rolling here, each one of us. By then, we fully expect to be having questions coming from the audience. Now, there are people at the back of the room that can help you. They've got paper, they've got pens. We're asking you to write down whatever questions you have of the candidates, of the chiefs, about their policy, about their politics, what they see coming, whatever you think you want to know about them. They will bring those questions up here, where we will look at them, and please make sure that they're questions that we can all hear, and we will ask them on your behalf. That's how it's being distributed. We are not deciding what all the questions are going to be. You are. Because this is your night and your chance to ask these two people who want to be the elected chief here why and what they're going to do for you, because that's what this is all about. Any other questions before? No, we'll start with our questions because we don't have the other questions yet. They're going to be brought up. Can that not happen now? There are some. We're still going to start with our questions. That's what you're basically asking. I don't know what the big deal, what the problem is with us asking a question. Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. That's the format that we've used, and this is our third time, is we each ask a question, and by that time they've brought up whatever questions they've collected, and we start asking those for the rest of the night. I understand that, but you Thank you. Say this forum is for us. Yep. So why did we not ask our questions before? Because we've organized, because I've decided that we're going to allow the local media to ask a question first, and that's who we are. Well, that's how it's all happening. Anybody else have a question before we start?
We do have a fair amount of time for questions to be put to the councillors, so I don't think it's too much of a concern. We have 2 hours to fill with asking questions for the two candidates here. There will be a chance for the councillors to come forward later on to come up and speak as well for the councillors that are running, not the chief councillor candidates. But we're starting with the chief councillor candidates. It's their chance to speak and let them be heard by you tonight as well.
Dave, can I correct you? It's not the chief councillor, it's elective chief.
I'm sorry?
It's not a chief councillor, it's an elective chief.
Thank you. Okay, so are we ready to go?
Yep, and I will give you the first question for our candidates, and it's a very simple question. I would like them both to let us know why they've decided to run for elected chief. Sherry Lynn, would you like to start?
Sure. I believe that with my experience in the past 10 years, but also in the addictions field, that I've grown to know what the community needs, but I think more important is listening to the community and knowing that the voices of the community hasn't been heard. And bringing forth the mental health, the addictions, that's my expertise, because our people are dying. And we really need to do some programs that we're able to start saving some lives. And I think the other part about it also is I feel that why I want to be chief is I'm approachable, I'm honest, and I think I can take on this challenge and move us forward in a way that I think is, I always say to the council, it's like always thinking out of the box. How can we do better? How can we think big? What's the initiatives? Those kinds of things. And I think I can take that to the forefront with my councilors, also with the community, but guided by the community. Thank you.
Steve?
I thought we were going to do introductions of ourselves first
That's
before the
what you-
questions.
That's what you're doing now.
Yep.
Oh, okay. All right, the reason I wanted to be chief, I've sat back for 4 years, actually 29 years since I've been on elected council. I looked at the last 4 years and I said, nothing is happening in the community. None of the roads got done, nothing's got done. People aren't hooked up to the water system, they do, it's $10,000. There's so many things wrong that's happening in the community, and I said, I can't, because I love this community so much, I'm not gonna sit back and let it go down the drain. To me, it looked like council was going toward a municipality, making us a municipality. Because they're hiring all this staff and they say, oh, we're just like a municipality now. Like, that's not right. And if you have municipality, you're gonna be paying taxes. I'm not gonna sit there and let that happen. That's why I decided to run. I'm here for, not just for the people that are sitting in the room, but for the several generations that haven't showed up yet. We have to keep this community for them as well, as safe as we can. And there's a lot of issues we have to deal with, from finances right up to the environment, to policing, everything. We have to work together with the rest of the council, and I'm willing to do that. I'll work with anybody. I've met with one of the Confederacy chiefs. He said, if you get in, we'll work together. And if we want to go forward next year on our trust account, we need the Confederacy with us. We'll be stronger together than separate, arguing. So that's why I'm decided to do this. Thank you.
Okay, so we do have some questions that have been brought forward. And I'm just going to switch my glasses so I can see properly. So this question is, what is council going to do about all of the non-natives that are be hired to work for council departments? Surely we have our own community members qualified.
Heard community members are being screened out.
Heard community members are being screened out. Sherry Lynn, would you like to start with that?
I went first. Steve can go next.
Okay, Steve.
Okay. I don't know how many non-natives we have. I've heard there's a lot, and I agree. I don't agree that our people should be screened out. I've heard the non-natives are being paid more than our own members as well, and I don't agree with that either. So I think we have to correct all those issues and look at the HR's reasons why they're doing this. I don't know if they're being told to do it or who's hiring to hire all these people, but I think that's what we have to get a handle on. I am not in that office like Sherry Lynn. She probably answers better than I do, but because I'm not there with the day-to-day to find out exactly how many they have. I know they have an issue with that in the past. Even when Ava's council was there, they got rid of most of the non-natives, and I think they've hired 5 times more. So I'm willing to look at that, and if we have to get our own people in there, I think we should be pushing our own people. That's where the jobs are. That's where the security is going to be. Thank you.
Sherry Lynn?
And I think also too, yes, there's a lot more non-natives, sad to say, because of some are specialties, but also too for our HR. Yes, does our HR need overhaul? Yes, it does. Does our policies need to change? Yes, they do. And that's what we've been in the process for the past years, this last term that I've been in, that we've been working on that. Do we understand? Yes. Hopefully we can get a handle on it, because there's some things that aren't happening in HR, and that needs to be rectified for every staff member. and especially for having our own people in these jobs and making sure that our own people are not going off the reserve. But I think also, too, we're losing a lot of good people. And a lot of good people who are leaving us shouldn't be leaving us. And that's a problem. And that's something that I want to make sure that they stay in these jobs and love their job. And again, that's HR, that's admin, but I know that's a problem, and for sure that's going to be able to be looked at. Thank you.
No.
So what are the current needs of the Six Nations band members? Prioritize the top 5 and solutions that council can address.
Top 5?
Yes, the top 5.
Top 5?
Yeah.
Well, just kidding. Let's zoom. For sure, mental health and addictions. We all know that it's affected our community. It's also affected our families, and it's also affecting the next generations because some of their parents aren't here, and that's a problem to me. And with the solutions is 24-hour service. Also, some safe beds. Also, outreach, because we need to outreach to the people that are in need and who are also knocking at my door, who I help. That's what we need, to give them hope. And also that they're a part of this community. They're not an outcast. The second one is housing. Housing is huge. We all know that. The part with housing is we're working on the policies so it's not so colonialized. Finally, after what took, 10 years that I've been sitting here, we're finally looking at the policies to make them more, without so much barriers. Also with housing is the tiny homes. Also, Ava and myself, last term, we worked on the tiny homes. That was huge. There's so much other things that we can do, emergency housing. There's a thing that we had at COVID. At COVID, it sat at beside the bingo. I'm just going blank, sorry. But there was a five-unit trailer. There's no reason why we can't have that 5-unit trailer here for emergency housing right now. And then consider to work on what we can do differently to move forward. But for now is the five housing. The next one is for sure the language and culture. That one is for all ages to learn the language and culture. But I think also the artifacts that are coming back. The government wants the artifacts to come back to us, and we have no place to put them right now. So we really need to build something so we can have them back in a safe place, and at some point hopefully show them to the world. And what's that? 3, 4. Also economic development, that's huge. If there's nothing that we didn't learn through COVID, is sustaining ourselves. And we really need to work on sustaining ourselves, economy. If it's casino, if it's I'm always talking about my chicken farm, the eggs, I think we need to have a huge egg farm. Why? Sustain ourselves, can sustain other First Nations, but also we can even get grants from the government, the military. And also from other First Nations, that's nation to nation. The other thing also too is that 4 or is that 5? I'm done, 5, no? Sorry.
I think you did.
5. Sorry. Okay, thank you.
Steve, would you like to answer the same question?
Yes, yes, I do. I think one of the top priorities for this council coming in that the community should be aware of is finances. We've got all these people. How are we paying them? Are we in debt? We have to know those questions before we can move forward. So finances is a big issue. We have to go after more money. We need to know what the money is being used for. The seniors aren't being looked after properly. They can't even hook up to the water system. There's all kinds of issues with the seniors that they don't have access to. And I think that's unfair. They're on fixed income. We should be looking at them as a priority, as well as the finance. Obviously, it comes in with that play. I agree with the housing issue is another major issue for, because there's a lot of couch surfing, I call them, and there's homelessness. There's too many people in a house. When one person gets COVID, they all get COVID. And that's one of the areas. Right now, the government has $4 billion of housing money that Six Nations hasn't even applied for, that I know of. $4 billion is going out west. So I don't know why we're not doing it. And I know Mark was at the meetings with me, and I don't know why they never applied for it, but that's where it is. I think education is a big one for our kids. And you know, every school, I know Ruby's school has never been funded properly, and I think we have to look at focusing on that as well, because the parents are demanding that kind of school for them, for the language, and I think that's where culture and language comes in with the education. So I think we have to do that and support them. I don't know how many non-native teachers we have, but again, we should have our own teachers in those areas as well. And we haven't taken over the education system as of yet. I don't think this community is ready for that. I don't think we're ever going to do it, because you've got to get everybody to agree, and the Confederacy as well as the elected people. And there's a group in between that don't support either side. So we all have to agree on how we're going to do this. And I think we've got to continue with the roads and the water system. The roads needed to be done years ago. They're finally getting started to get done. But again, we have to continue the road systems where people can drive on, and we deal with these damn trucks that are going down the road. We got to know what they're carrying, and we should be charging them for coming through our territory. Everywhere else they get charged. I don't know why we're not charging them. And like I said, with the water system, we got to continue expanding that and hook up people to it. There's no point in having a water system, nobody's hooked up to it. If you hook up to it, at least you'll get a revenue coming in. So I don't understand why it's not being done, but those are the kind of priorities I think the community has, and I think that's one thing I'm going to start pushing as well. Thank you.
No, Chief. There's a question here. Why is all blood work not covered, and do we have to pay? Sherilyn?
What's the question?
Yeah, why is all blood work not covered, and why do we have to pay?
I didn't know we were paying. I didn't know we were paying.
I guess I wasn't aware of that, and I think for sure that's a good thing to bring brought forward for health, to look into that, why it's not covered. Because as we know, NHIB are cutting back so much of our medication, everything. And the sad thing about that also, and I'm going to say it, is the government put us as an Indigenous. And we're talking about the Bill 53. So once that is done, you know, it's on the second reading for Métis to have the same rights as us. And is that scary? Because right now, we just have a question right here that is not covered. And we can probably sit here and raise our hands right now, what else isn't covered? Those are the things that we need to start fighting about. Those are the things that we need to be aware of, especially our health department, so we can sit there and bring them forth and politically lobby why aren't we getting them covered and put up a fight for it. That is our right. Thank you.
Well, I wasn't aware we were not getting paid either, because I get my blood work done, nobody sends me a bill, so I never expected that. And I don't understand it either. I mean, we have to go forward and fight for our people to say, why are we paying this? You know, it's a responsibility of the government to do this, and why aren't they? And I think we have to keep them accountable for that, and make sure that they're doing exactly what they're supposed to do. And I'm going to be strong enough to say it in front of them. You know, you have to do this. It's our people's health that are concerned. I know you want to get rid of us, but we're not going anywhere. We're going to be here. Thank you.
I got one. Okay, I got one for you. And by the way, whoever brought these questions that are so neatly typed out, thank you. And this is for both candidates. In terms of own source revenue, besides the effort to secure the tax dollars from GRE, what would be some other avenue you would like to see to contribute to the growth and well-being of Six Nations?
Well, I'll start with that one. In my platform, I did say I'm going to go after the GRE money. They pay over $300 million a year. And I don't know why we're sending it. Well, I know why we're sending it, because we're a corporation. They forced us to become incorporated, so we had to pay them. And I've been trying to get every chief since Wellington to go after this money. because it's excise tax we should be paying ourselves. And if we go after this money, I'm looking at not just Six Nations, but everyone that purchases our cigarettes get a portion of this. That way, if we have any issues, we've got 121 chiefs behind us. So we can go forward a lot of areas. And there's other ways to raise money as well. If you have economic development, you can raise your own. But also, there's other manufacturers besides GRE. There's like 25 other manufacturers out here. Why aren't they contributing to the community? GRE so far has given over 40 million to this community. And I don't know what the other ones have done. I mean, we do the food bank, we do, seniors, Christmas things for seniors every year, so they have some kind of present for them. We do all kinds of things, and I think there's revenue there. There's all kinds of revenue. I know people have talked about casinos. That may be an issue down the road, but again, we can't do that unless the community agrees that's what they want. So I'm looking forward to hear what the community wants, and I like the idea, growing our own food and taking care of ourselves. But again, there's all kinds. This community has to be the richest community out there. There is so much money flowing out there, and I don't know why they're all hoarding it. And I think that's what we need to do is talk to them and say, let's move forward with this, because there's lots of money out there. Thank you.
Question?
Sherry Lynn?
Question? Question again?
It's pretty much the same question.
Yeah, excise tax. Yeah. I agree with the excise tax for sure. This council has done a lot of work this past 4 years regarding that. We've knocked on the doors. We've talked to all different levels regarding the excise tax, and has come to some pretty good agreements, not agreements, but some good talks regarding that. And I hope that for sure Six Nations gets taken care of first, because the plant is here in our community before other First Nations, because we're the ones who are dealing with the air quality, the environment all around the plant. So I hope that Six Nations gets taken care of first, and then the other First Nations for sure. For the other economy, for sure, I talked about my egg farm, but I think also a hotel, tourism. There's just so much that can be done. Even we all know that bingo, we can talk about the casino, and for sure it's about the community if they want the casino. But also too, the bingo is dying out. What are we gonna do in place of the bingo? They have charity bingos with slot machines. I don't know, is that what maybe the community might want? Because we did a feasibility study. And I'm going to say that because I've sat here in council for 10 years, and we talked about casinos and stuff. I wanted to see, okay, how long has council's been talking about casinos? It went back to the 80s, but there was nothing that backed it up. This council at least did a feasibility study to have some answers for the community, to say this is how much would make, this is how many slot machines, this is what a hotel, all this kind of stuff, to give the community some answers for them, if it comes to it, to make a decision, compared to saying, oh, let's just build a casino. So this council in this past 4 years, that we have done work. You might not have seen it, but I just wanted to share those highlights. We have been working. Thank you.
I have a bit of a follow-up on that for both of you. So Steve, you said that you've been pursuing this since Wellington, and I remember discussions around this idea about getting the excise tax coming back to the community from GRE.
Yes.
What kind of feedback have you had? Is there a real sense that this could happen, first of all? Do you see that as a possibility? And what are the ramifications possibly of that happening with the community, and how that might be interpreted?
Well, David, there is a very big possibility to be able to do this. The shareholders originally went to court over that, and they settled out of court. But against what I suggested, they continue, but they didn't. They settled, and it was getting to the point every time they went to court, the government lost on the excise tax. It was just dragging it out. I think there's a good possibility we get it back, and people don't understand what excise tax is, first of all. It's a hidden tax that's in everything. If you buy a TV, a car, a refrigerator, a stove, excise tax are in there. If you can get an exemption on excise tax on this, there's no reason why you couldn't get the exemption on everything else. So there's not just on tobacco. Excise tax is on everything you purchase, even gasoline. And gasoline prices are high enough as it is. So I think there's a big opportunity for that. And one other comment, Sherry Linda talked about casinos. When I was chief in 91 to 94, basically I had 3 casino projects. With the Brantford Original ICOM Center, I had a deal with the mayor. I went to Toronto, had a deal with the mayor there, Barbara Hall, and it was going to be next to the Sky Dome and the original Niagara Falls one. I had all 3. Came to the community and they said no. Went to my council, they said no. Toronto's too far away, Niagara Falls is too far away, Brantford's too close. I had all 3 and funded, been able to fund it as well. And nobody wanted it. And they should have. We wouldn't be here today. You'd all be luxury places. But yeah, sorry.
Right, Sherry Lynn, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, just a little bit off that is right. It's not just, I think, GRE, it's also all the gas stations. It's also all these other businesses that are paying excise tax. So, and how close we are, I think it's huge. I think we're very close, and I think it's an opportunity that when the money does come, also what does the community want to do with it? And I'm always going to take back to when we get the money for anything that comes back to the community is what does the community want? Because we haven't heard their voice. Thank you.
And this question is for both candidates. What specific services would you provide to improve the lives of our senior and elder population?
That was me, right? I think I was. You went last time. Just going back and forth. For the seniors, I think for me and what I've learned is we need their own department. We have youth and children departments. We need our own senior department, meaning that everything's under one roof. And that there they can have information sessions on all different kinds of programs, all information sessions on harassment, bullying, financial abuse, all this kinds of stuff that you can think of. And also too, when they're having trouble with their medication, someone to advocate for them, to appeal it, to appeals. Also having fun things to do, take them out, go on trips. There's just so much we can do with our seniors that I think that we can do a lot more for. And the other thing I would like to see is a senior representative at the council table to have their input. And I know they won't be able to vote, but we need that voice. Because you go to any other community and they talk about their seniors. They talk about having senior circles and and I come here, I come back to the community, and that's what I go and visit the Sunrise Corps. I go there to see we need to uprise our seniors because they deserve that. And I'd like to see that, their own department under one roof where they can just go and get help right there. Thank you.
Okay, one of my platforms is to deal with the seniors. I'm a very strong advocate for seniors. I disagree with what Sherry Lynn said, bringing one to council. Most of council's seniors. They should already have that experience. But anyway, and I'm going to, if I get in, I'll be there too, because I'm senior as well. So, but one of the things
Not me. No, just kidding.
No, you're still a baby.
Just kidding. I'm getting old.
So, yeah, what I said is I'd like to be able to, I know the seniors are having a hard time on fixed income. They can't even hook up to the water line. They get denied because there's no funding for it. There's funding for Jordan's principle. There's no funding for seniors. One of the things I want to focus on is finding money, and if it's through that negotiations with the government, then that's where it goes to. Hook up and if we're successful with a committee of whoever to be able to negotiate with the government and say this is what we want for our community, let's put enough money in there for energy efficient furnaces, stoves, fridges for the seniors. If we have any extra, why don't we pay their gas bill or their hydro bill? Those are the things that are costing the most money. and they're on fixed income, they barely have enough for food. Never mind gas to go to their appointments. I mean, that's the stuff that we have to focus on. They're seniors. They were here before us. Soon, younger, like Sherry Lynn, will be here looking after me. I hope it's a few years away, but that's what we have to focus on this, because it's very important, not just for the seniors, but for the youth as well. We should have the youth involved with the seniors, learning from the seniors. So they're not out there, doing drugs and drinking and carousing and everything else and getting in trouble. We have to be able to use them as mentors as well, because you talk to a senior, you can learn a lot from a senior person. They've been around for a long time, and they're still here, and I know they're very, very wise. I mean, I know some seniors aren't very wise either, right, Audrey? But yes. So, yeah, I like I said, I would really push to have the seniors looked after better than they have been. And we talk about a new seniors complex. Where is it? We have to start doing this. We can't just talk about it and say, yeah, we're going to build one, a new nursing home. When? It's been in the planning stages forever. When is it going to get done? And what has this council done to push it? And that's the things that I want to be able to get to and hopefully get a handle on when I get in, if I'm successful. And if not, I'll work with Sherry Lynn, because we still got to get these things done. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. This is a question for Sherry Lynn, but certainly Steve could pipe in once Sherry Lynn's had a chance to address this. It actually says it's a three-pronged question. In your campaign material, you said that the community deserves accountability, transparency, and honesty. As a member of council for the past 4 years and keeping your campaign material in mind, can you please answer the following questions? Why did council not tell the community that they gave themselves a raise over a year ago? How much was the raise, and are the part-time councillors making, how much was that raise, and what are the part-time councillors making per year now? What is the chief making? B, right after the nominations for the election, the council appointed Councilor Nathan Wright as the acting CEO with the election next week. Why would you agree to appoint Nathan to this position? Why would you not consider appointing one of the senior staff to fill this position and leave it for the incoming council to properly fill this position? And C, council recently engaged TAP Resources to organize the annual general meeting and the Haldeman Walks. Why was the opportunity for a contract to organize these events put out to request for proposals? There are many private consultants in our community who likely would have applied. How much was TAP Resource paid for this?
Okay.
So back to the first question is, why did council not tell the community they were giving themselves a raise?
So that one there was, I thought it came back out to, we told them to come back out to community. I thought it was given out to the community after it was given a raise. And the reason why the raise is that younger people could sit here at this table and be able to sustain their families. Because when I first started on council, I was getting $36,000, and I was a single mom but it was about the community. And so that's what was decided, was to raise the money so that people can be able to not more candidates, I guess, to take this job. That's what it was for.
Okay. Nathan Wright's appointment.
Yes.
You want to address that, please? Why was that done in the way it was?
I wasn't at that meeting, but I was told that there was a list of people, and the councillors gave names because we needed someone right away, and that's how that happened. Okay.
Now, third question had to do with the annual general meeting and the Haldeman Walks, and I guess there was an opportunity for a contract to organize these events, to put out a request for proposals. There are many private consultants in our community who likely would have applied.
And what I know about that is when council decided about the walk, that it was given to admin to do that work. And when it came back, they were chosen. So I don't know how that worked. That was in the CEO's hands, because that was admin.
Okay. Now, Steve, do you have anything to add to that?
I wasn't there. I still didn't hear how much they're actually getting paid, or what the raise was. But
Yeah. I think it's 52. 52? Is that what we're getting? 51. 51.
51.
51.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, I got an interesting one for you. And it actually brings back to light that whole issue that was up recently, if you'll recall, over the twins from Toronto who claimed to be Inuit, and then was found that they weren't. So someone wants to know, because there are a lot of non-natives getting status that have no bloodline ties to families here, what steps or process will be done to ensure that we are not giving status to pretend Indians?
Yep.
Good question, actually, wherever you are.
Sure. Well, as far as...
What'd you say?
Oh, I thought you were done. Well, actually, there shouldn't be anybody that doesn't have full status here. If the government is putting people on our list, then they should be funding them as well. We've got to push them for that. There's nobody, because we got a limited bit of money as we have. If they're going to put another, I heard 1,000 people on our list, then they better have money for those people. And they're going to get to the bottom of the list like everybody else for housing and everything else. So we have to make sure that that's happening. And I think membership has to go through these processes to say, yes, this person actually is a member in their whatever blood quantum they are. If they aren't, then we should be saying no. We're sending them back. They're not ours, because they're not one of our members. I think we have to be strong at that and not back down on it. And I think the next council should be pushing that as well, behind us, and saying, no, we're not going to accept them. I mean, we tried, I guess council tried their own membership thing, and they got turned down because we didn't get 50% of the population, right? I would have said, too bad. This is our code. This is what we implemented. They did the same thing we did our own election code when I was chief. We said, this is our election code. I send it to Indian Affairs as information. They said, we didn't get 50%. I don't care. This is our code. The community's accepted it. We're moving forward. And that year, we had the best turnout ever. We're out of the Indian Act under the election code. So I think we have to put our foot down and start doing this, saying this is what we want. I don't care if government says no, too bad. You don't ask permission before you do it. That's my comments. Thank you.
Yep. And for sure, I totally agree, because I think that's the whole part about how do we want it? What does our membership look like? And yes, it got denied. And for sure, we should have sat there and just did it anyways, did it our way, instead of not just dropping it off to the side. So for sure, is there a lot coming on? The Bill S3s, the Bill C3s? Yes, there is. And then there's another bill coming down, Bill 23, Bill 38 or something coming down. So I think this next council really needs to take a look at it and stand up and bring it to the forefront. What does the community want to accept and not accept? So we really need to stand on that. Thank you.
So this question is for Sherry Lynn. We have recently heard that the federal government wants to introduce legislation related to health for First Nations. As you have been holding the health portfolio for several years, can you please explain what is included in this health legislation? What does it mean for Six Nations? What is Six Nations' position on it?
So our position on it is we're not accepting it, because we're going to do our own of the legislation. The legislation is trying to pretty much put us all in their way, kind of thing, the government way, and making it right across all First Nations. So we've already sent a letter to them to show them that we're opting out on it, and that we will be developing our own regarding health. I don't want to call it transformation, because government likes that word, of the legislation. So this legislation is in a draft form, so it hasn't really gone to the government. It's in draft form, but First Nations are standing up against it because of It's just the barriers again for our health system, for Six Nations, our people's health system. Thank you.
Sure.
You want to comment on that, Steve?
Steve?
I don't know anything about what she's talking about. With the, I didn't know they had a position, and if they have, has council seen it? Has council approved it? Or is it still in draft?
The legislation?
Yeah. The
Yeah.
one, that one
We-
that you're, actually, you guys are drafting.
Yeah, we already put out the letter to the government.
Okay,
We
so
opt
council
out.
already seen it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is there another one?
This is a question for Steve, but certainly, Sherry Lynn, you can answer as well. Steve, you mentioned in your platform that you would like to begin discussions once again with the HCCC to begin relationship building. How do you propose to do that?
Well, first of all, you have to, relationship building takes a while, but I mean, right now, if I got elected, I would be meeting with the Brantford mayor, the Brant County rep, Reeve, whatever he is, and the MPs, and say, how are we going to get this issue? Because there's issues out there that each of the, even all the municipalities around us, Haldeman, they're worried about any other, roadblocks, stuff. So they said, we have to sit down and talk to them, say, how are we going to get these issues resolved? There's probably some that we can resolve. There's probably some that aren't going to be resolved. When I was here for the Veterans Parade, a couple of them, the mayor of Brantford said, if you get elected, we can sit down and talk because we have issues we want to talk about jointly with you. And I said, fine, but we're not going to be pushed over. We're going to stand up for what we believe is right, and we're going to move forward. And if that's going along with you, but there's relationships we have to I don't think there's much of a relationship with the federal government or provincial government either at this point. If there has, I haven't really seen it or heard about it. So I want to be able to build those relationships as well, because there's no point just arguing with the government if you don't have a relationship. You got to say, look, this is what our plan is, and I think we're in the right time zone to do that, because our trust is coming up next year maybe. I know they delayed it for 28 years, but it's going to be within the next 4 years. To be able to say, look, either you pay us all the money, or let's sit down and talk about this. And I think that's where they're going to come to us and say, yes, let's sit down and talk. What can we do? And like right now, I already meet with ministers on a regular basis. I sit on economic development for Chiefs of Ontario and AFN, so I do meet with ministers. On the 8th of this month, I'm meeting with the ambassador of China in Ottawa for some kind of dinner thing he's invited me to. So I met with him before, so I can meet with people at that level, and I can discuss things with them, and they understand it, because we're not going to just roll over. So that's basically, I think we have to build these, and I think it's pretty simple. You just have to sit down and talk to each other.
Appreciate that, Steve, but I think the question had to do with the Confederacy.
Oh, the
and
Confederacy.
building
Oh, sorry.
the relationship with the Confederacy,
Okay.
sorry.
I thought you, okay. Well, like I said earlier, I had a discussion with one of the chiefs, and had said that if you get elected, we'll sit down and talk together, we'll work together. So I think that's a good step, and I did that before when I was chief. I met with the Confederacy. I told them before, and it was funny because I went to, and my council told me I shouldn't go there, but I went anyway. And I said, I don't have any problem with your 8 points of jurisdiction. They always throw that out there, your 8 points of jurisdiction. You got to accept that. I said, I have no problem with it. I need clarification on 2, membership and taxation. You can explain what those are, then I have no problem with it. I said, all we do is run programs. If you want to be the governing body, I don't care. I run programs. If I run out of money, you better be in Ottawa getting me more money. And the chief stood up and said, Steve, we've been on the opposition so long, we don't know how to govern. I says, fine. The band council will be there until you are ready. I still don't think they're ready. But I do think we can sit down with them and have discussions with them and see how far we can move. I think there is room there to move. There are younger chiefs coming in. I think there is that chance. Maybe some of you know, but some of you probably don't. My grandmother was a clan mother. She asked me to be a chief, a Mohawk Wolf Clan chief, back when Allen was being put up as a chief. And I said, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go on the elected side and try to get the two working together. If I can do that, I'll be happy. When I got elected the first time, I had so many people come up to me and said, your grandmother would be disappointed in you. I said, no, she wouldn't. She knew exactly what I was going to do. She'd be happy with me. And so I can actually go to the Confederacy and talk with them. And I had a funny thing because a woman came up to me one day and she said, Steve, you're a very unique person. I thought, okay, this is sarcastic. Why am I so unique? She says, you can walk between the Confederacy and they'll listen to you, and you can walk within the band council, you listen to you. Not many people in our community do that. And I agree with her. And I still do that. I still talk to these guys. I used to go to their council meetings. I don't like their benches. It's too hard sitting there, but I need to take a cushion. I'm getting too old. So thank you. Yes.
So Sherry Lynn, same question. We'll start. Steve answered a question having to do with relationships with the federal and provincial government and municipality. You can address that first. Is there a relationship, like Steve said? Do you see one there? You've been in council,
Yeah.
so that's the first part of the question. The second part is having to do with the Confederacy.
Yeah. So for sure, I think that's a huge one, especially with Brantford and Brant County, because what we see is so many housing going up. The building, when I sit here and read the paper, there's 430 million monies they're getting back from the houses. That's a problem. And so with the Brant County, Brantford is for sure to make our stand there, to tell them, you want to know what? We need to have a chat because we're not going anywhere. And the other municipalities is the same thing as Caledonia and all over, because we need that voice to really show to them that they can't just be able to build and not think that it's affecting us or even come to the table, and that's a problem. But also, like Steve said, you know, it's relationships to doing it, and that's the whole process also, is coming to the table and respecting where Six Nations stands and what we stand for regarding that. And with the Confederacy, for sure, the door is always open. We've been meeting with them since I've been on council, and I just see that there can be just so much done together. So and the unity that we can do together is, and it's time. The time's right now for that, because it's about everybody. It's about all of us. And we really need to sit down, and the door's open, for sure. I have no problem. Thank you.
Dave?
Steve?
One of the things I wanted to talk to the mayor of Brantford about is the Glebe property. The Glebe property is a huge property. We should be having our own development there for housing. We have a housing issue. Why don't we do that in Brantford? Hook up to the water system, the gas system, whatever. Why don't we use our own land that we have? And I think that's an area that we should be focusing on. If Sherry Lynn gets in or I get in, we should be focusing on that. The Glebe land's a lot of land. So I think we should look at that. Thank you. Pardon? I understand that. I'm not saying next year.
Sorry. You know, can you write your question down, please, about that? Thank you. What's not being transferred? Your question? Do we have questions? I thought hers was the first one. I guess so. Anyway. Yeah, go ahead.
So this question is for both candidates. Why is the community center and the gathering place so expensive for senior groups, and groups who are putting on events free for seniors? What would you do as chief for us?
Your turn or my turn?
Pardon me?
Your turn or my turn?
I think it's mine. For sure. I think there needs to be a big discussion on that, because even for the seniors, especially for their groups, and to have special occasions, they can't be paying that. Nobody should be paying that amount for how much that they're asking. And again, that's ECDEV, is for us to sit down with ECDEV to have that conversation of that it's not working for the community, and what can we do differently to bring down the price for especially the seniors, but also I think even community members renting it, that we can sit down and have a chat with them. Thank you.
Okay, I agree that, you know, it's disappointing to be able to come in here and you've seen people have to set up their own chairs, tear them down. Last year, the veterans had to do the same thing. This year, council said, no, let the staff do it. Basically, the staff have no problem setting them up and tearing it down. But somebody higher up said, no, people have to do it themselves. Well, these halls and the whole building is for the community to use. There shouldn't be a charge for it. I know there's O&M, but still, there should not be a charge for people that can't afford it. I mean, if a cigarette company wants to come in and rent the hall, fine, charge them. But for seniors and youth, there should not be a charge for this. It makes no sense to me whatsoever. Like, I don't know how much we can keep hitting our seniors and say, you got to pay more, you got to pay more. You might as well start charging taxes to them, because that's what you're doing. They only have so much money, and we have to make sure that they live a decent life, what they have left in them. And I think that's we have to make sure that if they come in any of these buildings, it should be set up for them, and it should be for free. We got money to do this, and I don't know why we're charging them. I really don't. And I hope if I get in, that's one thing we'll correct right away. Thank you.
Chairman? There's a question here for both of you. The outgoing elected council experienced inconsistent attendance from the chief and some councillors at internal and external meetings, resulting in risk management issues impacting community outcomes. How should policy be adjusted to address leaders who do not fulfill duties and obligations as elected representatives of the Six Nation community members, internally and externally, to ensure the voice of the people is heard and concerns are addressed? Who would like to start?
My turn? Okay. What I want to be able to do, and I said that in my pamphlet, is I want to make more accountability for the chief and councilors. I want to get rid of Zoom, because I don't like the idea you get on Zoom for a meeting and you see a blank name person, nobody there. You don't know if they're there or not. I think that's ridiculous. I think you've got to get back into the council chambers. You've got to meet and have community members come in if they have concerns to address them. That's how we got to get back to what we used to do. And I think that's the only way the community will be understanding. And I know maybe they don't all show up for these meetings, but again, we have to get back to what we used to do and have meetings in the council chambers. I mean, they renovated it so many times. We should be at least meet in there. If the PA system sucks, then let's get a new PA system. It's not that difficult to do. And I said, I don't know why we're not doing it. But I was on a lot of Zooms this year, a lot of Zooms last 3 years. I don't mind Zoom, but if we're going to be have a council house and a band building, the councilors should be in there for every meeting. Unless they're traveling, fine. If they're traveling, Zoom in. Other than that, and your face has to be shown, not just a name. Make sure that you're actually at the meeting, because you're getting paid to be there. So at least show up on the screen. Everybody can see you. Thank you. And you're supposed to hand in written reports. So I don't know if their written reports are handed in or not. Right now, I don't think they are. And I think if you're going to travel anywhere, you have to have a report saying exactly what happened. Don't just send us the agenda. Anybody can get the agenda. I can get that emailed to me. You know, you have to give a report on what actually took place. And it's tougher for the chief because he's got to be at all these meetings. Chiefs of Ontario, 3-4 days. AFN, 4 days. So I mean, they're long meetings. If anybody's gone to them, the last one I was in Halifax from Sunday till Thursday. Every day I was there, except when I went to lunch and breakfast. But it's a long day, and then you have receptions afterwards. So it comes to be a lot of work. But you have to get back and say, look, this is what happened. This is what we decided. This is what the chiefs decided. These are the resolutions that were passed, right? I mean, you get a whole book of them, so you can just mark which ones were passed and show them to council. Council should be informed of everything that's happening. They're not being informed right now. They're left in the dark. And I don't think that's fair. You're elected person, just like the chief is, you should all be informed about the same information. It should come to the table and say, yes, I want to go, or no, that's a different portfolio firm, let them do it. That's what I think we should be doing. Get back to what we used to do and make them accountable, not just the chief, but the councillors as well. Thank you.
Sherilyn?
Yep. And for sure, I agree, everybody to be back in the chambers. I said that when the schools went back. I asked for that. I said, if the children can go back, we can go back. And as you can see, I'm only one voice. And I think that's the whole part about it, is accountability for the chief, but also the accountability for the councillors. And is it great for Zoom? Yes, for the community and for others to watch Zoom, but for sure, but not for councillors to be on Zoom unless they are out on business. Other than that, they should be in the chambers with everybody else, especially that's what the community expects to be. So again, I totally agree that accountability for the chief, but also the councillors for the community to show that they're there at the meetings, but also giving the reports too. Thank you.
I'd like to do a follow-up on that question. Sherry Lynn, you mentioned that you're just one voice.
Yeah.
And this is about a council. And Steve, one of the things that you had mentioned in some of the information I read about your platform is you wanted to have more of a unified council moving forward.
Yes.
So the question to both of you is, how do we do that? I mean, this community, it's no surprise, has that issue of division. It's always there. So how do we try to get this council more united and moving forward? Sherry Lynn?
Yeah, and I said one voice is because it's hard, because I can vote against stuff, but things still go through. And I might not agree with it, but if council did it, then I have to agree with it. And also when I stated that the children are in, so let's get in there, everybody to get in there. And I think it worked not very long. I think maybe a week, maybe two, but other than that, then it went back to same old, same old. So I think that's the big thing, is consistency and action and making sure that we stick to what we said. And I always keep bringing it back. The kids are in school. We need to be there. Hello, the kids are in school. So I really think that making sure that everybody around the table has that same want, but also that respect for the community and having us there in those seats. Mm-hmm.
Steve?
Yes. One of the first things I want to do if I get elected chief, the first meeting, I want to put some ground rules down. I want everybody in that building, in the councillors and the chief, to be respectful for each other. Don't talk down to anybody. Don't shut anybody out. I don't want to see cliques like this council has. They've had cliques before, and part of the council didn't know anything what's going on. That's got to stop. You got to respect everybody's opinion. You may not agree with it, but everybody has a right to opinion. I remember arguing with John Peters every time, argue about something, but we go and have tea afterwards and talk to each other. Like, we weren't enemies, we just had different opinions. And he respected mine, I respected his. So we have to understand that. And if the councillors are there and they have an opinion, they want to say something, listen to them. No matter how bad it is, listen to them. Their opinion is what counts. And if you disagree with it, fine, you disagree. If they have council pass a resolution and you don't agree, well, the resolution's been passed. Regardless, you have to accept it. I don't want anybody going back and say, well, I didn't agree. No, it's council decision as a whole. So that's what's going to move forward. And I hope we don't have to have too many where that I get a vote. I hope it's all almost like consensus, everybody agreeing. But again, this is reality. It's not going to happen that way. I can dream that, but it's not going to happen. So we're going to have to, have everything in place like that. And I think that's the only way we're going to make this thing happen and work for the community. Because we're there for the community. We should be. If we're not, then get out. Simple as that. Thank you.
No.
Okay, we shouldn't be surprised at this. Somebody's actually asking about the environment, and we all know what kind of environmental issues we have at Six Nations. So what they're asking is, we're facing a real crisis situation on the horizon with climate change. Our community has not lived according to our roles as stewards, especially with the cigarette industry, Speedway, and other major business and industries taking place down here. How do you plan to address the environmental impacts of these industries and the poor decisions being made by landowners that impact the environment? And how will you ensure good planning practices are being implemented in the community? And that's for both of you.
Your turn, Mike. My turn? Okay. Well, again, I agree that the environmental issues are a major concern. You can see that when you go to the dump. You know, people are putting stuff in. There's other times they're not putting them in the right bins. It's getting, you know, you see plastics where it shouldn't be. And I think with the cigarette business themselves, I know you can smell tobacco sometimes in some of the factories because they don't clean their filters enough. But if they're bringing in dirt, I think we have to make sure that the dirt's clean and safe for everybody. We need to check the trucks that are coming to the reserve because there's a lot going through here. That's why our roads are such a mess. And I know the Speedway has a lot of sound, noise. I know there's a curfew on noise, but it seems like the Speedway, they can't stop the noise. So I think there is issues that we can deal with as a council to be able to sit down and say, look, these are issues that the community is bringing to us. If there's an issue that they think, you know, there's contamination going in someplace, then we get in there and test it and make sure it isn't. And if we have to get it tested, then and it is something wrong with it, then we'll get the company that's doing it pay for it, because we shouldn't be doing it. And we'll keep an eye on them to say, you know, if you do it again, guess what? You're going to be paying more than that. I don't think we can stop a business from working, but I think we can put a lot of pressure on them and let the community know what's going on. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is a big one because, like I said, I've been on 10 years, and it took this third term to finally to have an environmental department. So, and taking that long, I think we really realized how much that we needed it a long time ago. So it's kind of snowballed. And right now, with the voluntary, with the bringing in the dirt, those kinds of things right now is voluntary, that you can fill out forms and stuff to help. But right now, also with that is our environmental department is working with HDI and really going out together and looking at these places who are doing the dumping these big gravel or whatever it is, dirt, who knows what's in it. So we're working together on that. So that is huge. The other thing is like the air quality. And it comes down to, do we need the air quality, what's in the ground, in the waters? There's just so much with environment. Our two people in environment, there's where we need to beef up our environment to at least 5, 6 people to be able to to give quality to the community on all these issues. And I think that's where we really need to focus. If we're stewards of the land, that's where we can really focus on, is taking all these, because they're busy, so busy with all the stuff that's going on in the community. So, thank you.
All right, now to both candidates. I just want to mention we're 1 hour into our live presentation here at the Six Nations Community Hall, and we're streaming this live over Turtle Island News, YouTube, as well as Facebook Live, and it is going live out over CKRZ 100.3 FM as well. Yeah, and so there's still time for you if you're in the community, come on down. There's still some seats available, although we do have a pretty full house, and it's great to see that. I have a question here, and it has to do with the existing council. It says Six Nations Council employees have a mandatory lateral kindness rule, I guess, in effect. And it says, as chief, would you make this mandatory for the new council? So, Steve.
But then I answer the first one.
It's my turn. My turn.
Oh, is it your turn? Sure. Sorry, Sherry.
We're taking off here. Yeah, for sure. I think even I said that before with all the training. I think the counselors and the chief need to take that training, but also I think there was the that lateral kindness one. There was suicide. There was just so many different ones that I thought the council also needed to take them in the past, but never did. So for sure, I would love to push all that, the kindness, because I think we see it, the lateral violence in the community. We see it in the workplace. So for sure, that should be mandatory for the counselors and the chief. Thank you.
Dave, can you ask me the question again?
Sure. Says, the Six Nations Council employees have a mandatory lateral kindness rule.
Oh, yeah, yes.
As chief, would you make sure this is mandatory for the new council?
Yes, definitely. Right now, there's been some major issues. I think it was funny, about a year and a half ago, Mark had sent me a letter saying, would I be interested in sitting on a anti-bullying task force, which I think is a great idea. And I sat there and looked at it, and I called him back. I said, Mark, you had the biggest bully on council, you did nothing. And you want me to sit here and do that? I can't. I can't in good conscience do that and help you. But I do think it's very important to have that. But again, I totally agree that the council should be the same issue. That's why I said I want to be upfront with everybody that we got to treat each other with respect all the time. Not just in the council chambers. You have your different opinions, move on. But yes, I agree.
No?
So this question is for both candidates. Do you believe that Six Nations HR, our human resources, needs to be reviewed in terms of pay equity and the current salary grids for some employees? If so, how would this be done?
I totally agree that HR's got to have some changes to that, because I know some of the staff aren't paid accordingly. They're very low paid staff, and then you hire non-natives and they're paid higher than ours. I don't think that's fair, and I think I hope that if I get elected, that in the council we sit down and deal with this to make sure we can do this properly. I know last year, I think some of the staff got huge raises, and they were told then that their departments have to now cover it themselves. The council's not going to do it. Well, that's fine if they still have their budgets, but we don't even know if they have their budgets. We don't know if they're in deficit. At this point, I know the audit came out today, I think, at 2 o'clock, and I don't know if they're in debt or not, but because I had to pick my wife up. But so yes, I think a lot of our staff are underpaid, and I don't think that's fair. Some of them have been there 30, 35 years, and they don't have enough, still don't make enough money properly. So I think, yeah, we have to look at that. If we have to find money, we'll find it, because we have to look at staffing. If that means, we have to get rid of some staff that aren't members, then so be it. But we're going to look after our own members. That's what they're for. And I want to make sure that, I know we used to have on a hiring, used to say First Nations, Six Nations members preferred. I don't know if that's on any hiring anymore. I haven't seen it, so I'm not sure if it's there anymore, but we have to get back to that. We need to have our own preference for our own members. Thank you.
So that was for both, right? That question was for both. Both of
Yes,
us, yeah.
yes.
Yeah. So, yes, for sure, with HR, and again, we had a chat, I talked about that earlier regarding how it needs to be, the policies and stuff. And right now that I know of, that it's going in stages, that everybody is at 40,000 right now, where I think that how this was done, it still need to be looked into more, because I think there was some concerns regarding that, is that people were making the same now as what somebody just got up to 40,000. So for sure with this HR, we really need to look at the wages and how it's going, and what this next stage is supposed to be, stage 2, in regards to that, to make sure that our people are up to the money that they should be needed there. Thank you.
So in recent years, some things have been done to help in the communities for safety, especially having to do with children, and we've got certain walkways that are lit up, and we've got those stops and those kind of things. This question deals partly with that to some degree. It says they're suggesting the idea of having speed bumps to deter speeding in the community, and wondering what are your thoughts on having these to stop speeders in the community?
For sure, I agree, and I think it's been brought to council before, and I just kind of did a follow-up on that regarding the speed bumps for sure around the schools, because that was a lot of complaints that was coming in regarding the schools, and to have the speed bumps, especially in the village here. So for having those, we surely need them there, and I think at all the other schools, because there are still people crossing or walking down the road that still need that. So yes, I agree.
Steve?
I think I don't have a problem with speed bumps, depending on the size of them, because some of them can really, if somebody's going fast, they can be airborne very quickly. So I think it depending on the size and where they're located. I don't have a problem with them, as long as people are aware that they're there at some point. I mean, I've gone to some municipalities where they have these little, they cut out the pavement, and you can hear it thumping thump before the stop sign, so you know it's coming, but it's far enough back. It's not a big step. So I think, yeah, I agree that it has to be looked after. We got to make sure that our kids are safe. I know the police did a real big campaign when the school buses got back on the road, and they charged a lot of people for not stopping for the school bus. And I think that's one of the issues that we have to focus on. I know one of the big issues in my area is people don't stop at the stop signs anyway, on the corners. They just slow down and go right through. I've seen non-natives do that as well. And, you know, we've got to make sure that everybody has a safe issue, because there's a lot of accidents on the corners because people don't stop. And it's you know, on the, so we got to, yeah, I agree with you. We have to do that.
Okay, thank you.
So this question is for Sherry Lynn. The audit for last year was just presented today at 2 p.m. to the community. Can you explain why the delay in presenting the audit, and what is your opinion on the audit report?
The delay was, I think, because of the different departments weren't getting it in. So that was kind of the delay. And my overall of that is that we're 20 million, we made 20 million last year, like this past year. So we're in the black, so we've made money in that. Thank you.
Okay, I understand. I really don't understand. I don't understand how council can be in the black when you have, the government made you put in assets. So you've got, one of your assets is the band office, the arena, this building here. They put in an asset. All the buildings that we have here, it's an asset. They put it in your audit. That shows that the government says, oh, look at, they're not in the red. Look at, they got money. These things are you got O&M here to maintain these things. Who's going to come and buy an arena on reserve or the band office? That's an asset if you can sell it. If you can't sell it, it's not an asset. It's a liability. And I think we've got to change the auditing process. I don't care what Indian Affairs said. I want to be able to change that to show that they're not giving us the proper money and show that we are in the red. Because there's no departments. I know the first time I saw it, I said, it showed Public Works is in the black. Public Works has never been in the black, ever. So, because they don't get any money. Recreation, same way, they're in the black. No way. They don't get money. So, I mean, so we have to make sure what we see in the audit is a true picture, not an asset. Because, again, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I mean, I deal a lot of finances, but it still doesn't make sense to me why you would put a band office or an arena up for an asset. It just makes the government take the government off the hook. And they allowed that. And I think that's we got to stop doing that. Sorry.
So this question has to do with the community, of course, and specifically non-native people living within the community. As we know, there are many non-native, non-band members living in the community. What do you have plan? Do you plan to uphold the bylaw if elected as chief?
Yes, the bylaw, I think I was on council when we did the bylaw. And yes, we're going to uphold the bylaw. Normally, people can live here as long as they don't bother anybody. You know, but when you get a letter of complaint, yes, then the bylaw kicks in, and we have them asked to be removed from the community. The problem you have at that point, you can remove them, but there's nothing in the bylaw saying they can't come back and visit. Right? So that's one of the issues that we have. And I think Roberta at the time, when she was chief, she tried to get the bylaw changed, and the government said, you present it back to us, we'll kick it right out. It's not gonna pass. So the only option we have now is to continue with the bylaw and kind of live with what's there, unless we can make something stronger. And that's where I keep thinking we need our own justice system to do that, to be able to say, this is what we want in our community. These are the laws we're going to perform, and we're going to abide by it. If you take it to a non-Brantford court or Cuga, wherever, they look at the laws of the province, and they're going to say, oh, you can't do that. You know, you're discriminating against them. No, we have to deal with this, because this is our community. We can't have them there if they're going to be, you know, beating up our women or vice versa, whatever. Our women beating them up, whatever. So I mean, so we have to make sure that we have our own laws in place, and I think we need a justice system. I know they have a justice department, and I know it's been there for at least 20 years, and I don't know what they do. I don't know where we are on it. I don't know if they're ever going to a justice system itself, but I'm going to find out. If I get in, I'm going to find out. Thank you.
Sherilyn?
Yeah, so that's right, the bylaw. And I think that's the whole part where there's been set up, since I've been on council for the past 10 years, in different terms, people have taken upon themselves to have their own residency. How do they want it? This committee, to see what it looks like. And nothing has flourished from it. So I really think that that we need to sit down and have a committee that really looks at it to see what it looks like for the residency, because if they don't live here, they're not supposed to be here, then yes, they're supposed to be removed. That's what the bylaw says. The other part about it too is, right, we need our own justice system, because if we don't have our own justice system, none of these bylaws or standards or whatever can be implemented. So I think with even a one-day court, 1 day a month court, that can help instead of taking it to Brantford. And Steve's right, it's going to get thrown out. So I think that's a whole thing that we really need to look at, is the justice system, but also the people to have a voice, and what does residency look like, and how can we really figure it out for everybody. Thank you.
Right, now.
Yep.
We have a question. We'll take a question from online. This lady would like to ask what innovative ideas candidates might have to address the major multi-million-dollar capital and infrastructure needs of the community moving forward outside of the use of excise tax.
So, what was that, sorry?
How are you going to fix the water main, the roads,
Yeah.
the treatment plant,
Infrastructure.
detox center?
I can't hear you.
Do you want to repeat it?
Yes, please. Sorry.
She would like to ask what innovative ideas candidates might have to address the major multi-million-dollar capital and infrastructure needs of the community moving forward outside of excise tax use.
Yeah, there's just so much to be used regarding that, and that's our own economy that we can bring in money, but also too is we need to be able to have the monies for the programs that aren't getting funded, but also I think if the court case goes through, those ones. Also, we talked about our own source revenue, those kinds of things. But I really think the bottom line is how do we be creative to bring money into the community, and that the community agrees of that way of money to be brought in. Thank you.
Steve?
Okay, I talked about that earlier. I think we got to focus on, besides getting the money from the government, more money, but also for the trust account coming up in the year or so, to be able to say, look, this is what we need to do our roads, this is what we need for our infrastructure. I know the sewage in the sewers in the village are probably pretty rough shape. I don't know when they were put in, but it was way before my time. So they've got to be probably replaced as well. But we should be looking at expanding the sewer system outside the community. If that means we have to put out different lagoons in different areas because of the flow and stuff, then we have to do it. I think that's what we got to focus on. And I know there's going to be, it's not like we can do this in 4 years type of thing. So I think it's something long-term that we got to plan for, and we got to start doing it. But again, I would like to be able to say, yeah, we can get the money. We can negotiate that with the government to say, look, this is what we need. And if we've got the Confederacy with us, the government can't turn us down. There's no way they could turn us down. Thank you.
No? A bit of a follow-up. Shaylin, I thought I heard you say if the court case goes through. Is that what I heard you say?
Yeah.
Court case. Were you referring to the...
Yeah, the trial. The court case.
Yes,
that's
so
coming
the
up next week.
litigation
Yeah, the
process.
trustee,
Okay, thank you. So that leads into a question, and it's also something I was going to ask earlier, and it goes back to this previous question as well about around money. And this person says, why are our own people paying property taxes when they buy homes along the Haldeman Tract? That is our land, and we should not be paying any taxes on our own land. What are you, if elected, going to do about this? So what can each of you address the litigation a little bit? I guess that's where it's leading to, and this whole thing with the Haldeman Tract and Haldeman Deep. So I think, Steve, is it your turn to start?
I don't know. I lost track.
I could.
Okay, Shaylin?
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's the whole part of negotiation. And I think for negotiating, when the time comes, is to have the negotiating team to be able to talk about those things. The people who are living 6 miles on the Grand, not to be paying taxes, is to have a plan. Maybe, but it's back to the community also. Maybe we have different, some land in each municipality. I'm not sure what it looks like. But the whole part about it is having a good negotiator to sit there and make sure that if the community wants not to be paying taxes 6 miles if you live there, for sure. I think that's a great idea to put in that as a negotiation thing. And I think also too is really looking at is what does the community want in the negotiation also, because this council can't do it all. You know what I mean? So let's hear what they have to say also. What would they like to see negotiated? Thank you.
Steve?
Yes, I've thought about this a long time, how we're going to do this. And again, it comes back to, I just lost my train of thought. I guess I didn't think of that long. Shoot. Read the question again. Sorry.
So basically it has to do with property taxes, the Haldeman Tract,
tax, yeah,
and,
yeah, okay.
and the litigation moving forward.
Yeah. Okay, I understand that. We've already bought a lot of land outside of the reserve here, Onondaga, all over the place. We have a lot of land. And it was set aside for reserve status. It's been 29 years since I've been in council. It still is sitting aside. And it hasn't been moved. And I don't know why we haven't had it moved. We've had the Liberal government in there that said, oh yeah, we can do it in no time, we'll do it. Why hasn't it been pushed to be able to get it back to reserve status? So we can do this. We have property in Innsville and Ottawa, Hawkesbury, 30,000 acres, whatever. You know, it's sitting there because the trustees took our land. The government, when they died, the government kept it and said this is for 6 nations. Why aren't we developing it? Why have we got that back to reserve status? We've got to push the government for this and say, look, you've got to start looking at these issues, because we can't just sit back for another 29 years and have these pieces of land we purchased do nothing. because you can't develop them until it gets back reserve status. You can't do anything on them. So I agree that, you know, at some point negotiations are going to come forward. We're going to say, look at, because when I met with the minister before, when I was chief, I asked the minister of provincial minister, Bud Wellman, who gave you permission to tax people in my territory? He just looked at me, right? And I said, because you didn't have that authority, you shouldn't be taxing anybody. If anybody should do it, we should be doing it. And so I think we should negotiate that as well to say, look at, you know, anybody that wants to build a house or move into a house in Brantford or Mount Forest, wherever, then yeah, they should be tax exempt because it's our land. And I think we have to continue pushing that. Thank you. Thank you.
Anyone?
No, that was it.
So this question is for both candidates. Will you impose a load limit for transport trucks, dump trucks, who are speeding across the territory?
My turn? Yes, we need to stop them and make sure what they're carrying because that's how our roads got in such a bad shape. We used to put half load signs. We don't even do that anymore. I don't know why we're not doing that. But again, we need to deal with that. I mean, on Third Line, there's a cement plant. It used to be owned by the natives. They've sold it to non-natives. They're supposed to be moving it. Well, they still haven't moved it. Why has it been moved? They're not members of this community. And if they're not going to move it, then maybe we should start charging them a fee until they do move it. A high fee that they have to either pay it or get out. Simple as that. I agree that trucks are the same issue. You know, these trucking companies get a lot of money to bring whatever they're going through the community. It's cheaper for them to go through the community instead of on the main highways. So guess what? Then we should be charging the companies. If you're going to bring your trucks through, this is what we're going to charge you. X number of dollars every truckload. As simple as that. And if they don't pay it, then just say no. You're not allowed to come through our territory. If you do, we'll have you arrested.
Yeah.
Shaylin?
Yeah, I agree, and I think that's the whole part about needing a control officer or something, because the police don't have time to do all that, to be able to charge these big trucks that are coming through, that are wrecking our roads, that are sitting here, that we're trying to pave, and we're losing our front end of our cars because of the big gullies in them. So I think for sure that we really need to work together and have that control officer, or whatever we want to call it, to be able to lay these fines so it doesn't take away from the police's obligations. So we need to get a handle on that. Yep, thank you.
Dave, earlier we talked that there's an environmental department. Why aren't they doing that? Why aren't they monitoring what's coming through the reserve? That's their job.
There's only 2 of them. That's why we need more.
Ready? Ellen?
Probably do need more.
Yeah, I got a question.
Yeah.
Okay, we all know, because we all live here, that we constantly are involved in boil water advisories. And I know that we all just gripe about it because I hear it all the time. Anyway, one of our members wants to put to you guys, to the 2 candidates here, about the water advisory multi-billion-dollar settlement that recently came down. And what will you do with your next council to get us money out of this settlement? And again, the Six Nations Council, as a community, was turned down for the settlement.
Yeah. So yeah, we were, and I hope, and people still put in their applications, and if we get turned down, that still shows the data that we're getting turned down. We're putting in for the court case to fight it against that because of all the boil advisories that has happened throughout the years regarding that. So again, this council has been working diligently on that, and there has been community members who have sent in their water application. And if you got denied, please let council know so we can have the data on this, because we're still trying to understand why Six Nations isn't on the list, because we have boiling water dates on that. Yeah, thanks.
Well, I think Six Nations Council got a letter asking them to join this court case. And for some reason, it never went any farther. It sat on the chief's desk and it never went anywhere. They missed the deadline to participate. Now, how can we come back as individuals and say, we should have been included? We had a political representative supposed to look after our interests. They didn't. I can't blame council. I don't know if they even seen it. But I know it was on the desk of the chief and nothing happened. He wasn't there to be able to look at this and read it and say, we got to get this in before deadlines. They even called him personally in his office and no response. So again, I agree that we have to be able to get back to this and say, if we have to launch our own court case against them, then we do it. Because we got to get this thing resolved where people shouldn't be boiling water anymore. And we have a water system. People can't even get hooked up to the water system. I've been trying for 3 years. I've been offered to pay for it, and they haven't hooked me up yet. They say, you don't have any kids. Well, my grandkids, 4 grandkids are there every day, all summer long, every day, after school, and they still won't hook me up. I offered to pay for it. They still haven't got hooked up. So, and besides being a senior, 2 seniors, and they still won't do it. So I said, you know, I understand what the seniors are saying. They can't get this hooked up either. That's I can't say it on air, what I'm thinking, but you know, it's really BS. And we have to go move forward on behalf of the community to try to get this thing. If it's another court case, let's do it. We're going to court for everything else. Why not? The only way the government's going to move if you have a class action lawsuit against them. That's how Jordan's principle happened. That's how all these other things are happening, because of class action lawsuits that they lose in court. And they should know better to even take it to court, because they're going to lose. Thank you.
Okay, now for that. Speaking of that kind of thing, this next question is, what is your plan to get our community out of the Indian Act? Negotiate through the federal self-government policy framework of land codes and taxation? Or do you have an alternative plan? And I'm sorry, I don't remember whose turn it is.
I'll start. I'll start. Like I said earlier, we got out of the Indian Act on the election code. And I think we have to look at it because there are some benefits under the Indian Act. Like the welfare, 65 welfare agreement, our taxation rights are there. Some of the other stuff we should get rid of. And I agree with that. It's ancient. It shouldn't have ever, we should have had it removed earlier. But there are some benefits to it. And I think we've got to look at what good parts are and get rid of the bad parts and come up with our own. The only way you're going to do that is we got to sit down as a community and say, this is what we want to do for our community. So let's come up with our own, whatever it is. If it's not an Indian Act, it's something else. But it's what we want to see in this community. And we could do it. We've done it before, and I don't care what the government says. They don't like it, too bad. This is our community, not theirs. They don't want us here anyway. So, thank you.
Yeah.
Shaylin?
And with the Indian Act, for sure, we have to make sure that when we do it, we keep in those ones about not paying taxes or funneling money from the programs. And it's, again, how do we want that? And to make sure that those two things in the welfare one stays in there. And so we can make sure that it fits us. And if it doesn't fit us, that we don't like it, then we tell them we don't like it, because those ones are the main ones that we got to make sure that they stay in there, or we're going to be sitting here being a municipality and paying taxes, and the money's not flowing through, because those are the only things right now under the Indian Act that protects that. So again, we really need to figure out and to keep those three in there. Thank you.
All righty. Thank you.
It's Lisa's turn.
So this question is for both candidates. What is your plan to stop the carbon tax on our oil bills for seniors?
On the oil bills? On the oil bills?
You want me to?
It was the oil bills, right?
Yeah, for the carbon tax on the oil bills for seniors.
Seniors. And I think that's the carbon tax where we need to really, what are they on the second carbon tax, I had to say, that we really need to fight and stand up for that, because we see it. We might want to call it on the our union, our gas company, our bills there. It's on there. We really need to sit at for the gas company, we can sit on an Indigenous board regarding the carbon tax there. We need to start having a voice and really voicing that the carbon tax, and we're not paying it. And if it's on that for seniors, I didn't know that was on there, that really needs to be brought forward and be politically so we can sit there and fight that for them. And again, if we're not aware of it, we can't do anything with that. So whoever's that is, please bring it forward, because we really need to look at that, making it on that, if it's on the oil also. Yeah, thank you.
This thing has been around for quite a few years. I'm chair of the gas board. We sent it to council when it was first going to happen. We told council this is coming down the pipe. What are you going to do about it politically? Nothing happened. Nothing happened. And now we're sitting here still arguing about it, what we shouldn't be paying it. Well, if the gas board didn't pay it, then we wouldn't have a gas board, because that's what's happening. And we have to be able to, again, we're going to have to negotiate with the government on this to say, look, why is this really happened? Or get rid of Trudeau altogether and have somebody else come in. Because they get my vote if they come in and say, I'm going to get rid of the carbon tax. Guess what? There you go. But again, like I said, it comes back to negotiations with the governments to say this and how we're going to deal with it. And I think that's the only way you're going to get anything done. Sit down and have a discussion and tell them what we want. And then they'll not give us everything we want. So what? We move forward anyway. We try to do it. We don't obviously have enough money to pay all of the taxes that are coming out here. But hopefully we'll be able to get some money to be able to do that and cover some of the seniors. I said that before. We've got to look after our seniors. Our veterans are the same way. We've got to look after them as well. But the seniors as well we need to look after. So that's one of the areas I'm going to push if I get elected. Thank you.
This next question is sort of near and dear to my heart to a certain degree. It has to do with asking to please make a good communication strategy that works for the people of Six Nations and how we can measure that success. Now, the reason I say it's near and dear to me because I've been working with the radio station, I've been working with APTN and CTV and CBC over the last number of years, and at CKRZ, we always wonder, why don't we hear more by people that have a message to get out? Why aren't they utilizing the media in the community to get that message out? Why don't we hear more? Why aren't they coming forward to utilize the services that are there for that purpose? And so I'm wondering, yeah, how can we use, or would you guys develop something that is more strategic in terms of getting that message out, so that we don't hear people saying, I never heard about that, right? I hear that all the time from people. Yeah. I didn't know, I never heard about that. Why aren't people knowing? Why aren't they, there's an old saying I remember hearing about a long time ago about getting a message out. And the message is, if you want people to remember something, they have to hear it at least 7 times. You can't just say it once and expect people to remember it. It has to be repeated to them. So with that, I'll hand it over to the candidates.
Thank you. I totally agree with you. The communication in this community sucks. I don't know why we're not using the radio stations or the newspapers. We have 2 each. And I don't know why we're not putting stuff out there. We have a communication department. I don't know how many people are in there, but there doesn't seem to be much coming out of them. There should be something out almost regularly for the community to say this is what's happening. I mean, there was, basically, I don't, like the newspapers will always do the bad news too, but there's some good stuff that happens, so you got to use them, both of them. And the radio stations the same way. If you have something for them, they'll put it over the air. But I'm hoping if I get elected, I can at least maybe make a plan to go both radio stations once a week and get on and talk about some of the issues that council is going through, so the community can understand that. And I hope I get interviewed by both papers on the same issues, so people understand what I'm doing. Not just sitting in my office, not just traveling, but this is what I'm trying to focus on, and this is what I've accomplished or not accomplished. But, I'll do both. If I accomplish something, if I don't accomplish it, I'll tell you that. I'm not done yet. So that's what I'm hoping, that we can use them that way, because I agree with you, David. A lot of people don't know what's going on in the community until it's too late. So, yes, thank you.
And for sure, yeah.
Sherry Lynn.
Yeah, and for sure, we need a communication strategy because it could be done a lot better. And for sure, using both the papers, but also I think even for the seniors, because they don't have social media and some of them might not get the newspaper. And I think that's where that senior program can help them in giving them the information along with the councils. We need to change that council's newsletter and show that what's happening and what's going on with what's the chief doing, or even what's the CEO doing, or what's finance person doing. It's really doing an overload on an overhaul on that also. I don't know if anybody still has cable. We have the cable there's the cable company. There's just so much that we have in the community that we can really enhance the communication. Because when I went off social media for I think it was a year during COVID, I didn't know nothing that was going on, and I went to council and I said, "You want to know what? I don't know what's happening." And I said, I don't read the papers, I don't sit here, I'm just to myself, and it's like, they said, well, what do we do? And I said, that's where the part of it is. How do we reach those people? How do we reach those ones that don't read the paper or on social media? And I guess that's the whole part of we got a new sign, puts it out on the sign. It's really being creative. And if it's that part too, I think even councilors to sit in the plaza when it's the spring to summer, sit out there on Thursdays and be consistent, or the chief to sit out there. There's just so many things that you can do to make sure that what's going on, and even the programs. Yeah, thank you.
Dave, I have a different opinion on social media. I think it's the worst thing we've ever come up with. Because you can lie all you want on social media and people believe it. 100% they believe it. It's true. And that, to me, is a disgrace to whoever's putting social media out there. I know there's probably some good things out there, but there's also all the bad things. And that's all people really read, is the bad stuff. So I agree, there's probably areas that you could improve in the communication on social media, but you got to be careful, because right now, you can lie all you want and people believe you. And I don't agree with that.
I just want to add on something there, Chief. Steve, you were saying, and that is that you would go out, you would do this, and we did have the chief come in and do a weekly update. Yeah. But I hope that it's not just left up to simply the chief, because there's councillors that have portfolios. Yes. There's department heads that can come up and speak on what they're doing with programs, and I'm hoping that communication reaches out far beyond, so that more of that information gets out there. Just wanted to add that on.
Yeah, good idea.
I agree.
Yes, oddly enough, even with all of the new innovations that the council has brought in, we actually knew more when we used to sit down with the previous chiefs. Bill Montour would make himself available at any time. Actually, Steve did as well, and other councillors did. I just want to make that clear that the chiefs in the past have made themselves available on a weekly basis. That doesn't happen anymore. But we do have some questions. What are you planning to do about gun violence on Six Nations, for both of you? And I think, Sherry Lynn, we start with you this time.
The gun violence. We all know it's here, and sad to say, we all know that it's been here for a long time. And I've been in the addictions field over 30 years, and the guns were there back then. And now, listening to the violence that's happening in our community, it's on a rise, and I think that's where the part of it is. And do we have more police officers? Yes, we're getting more police officers. The other part is, why are they using the guns? How come it has to go to fight with the guns? What's the underlying reason for all this stuff that's happening in our community? And I think with the deaths, with bringing out the guns or anything like that, it's sad to see that people are protecting themselves with guns. People have alarm systems. It's not like it used to be. Times have changed. And it's when do we start as a community to come back and be peaceful and with one another and know your neighbor, and so you're not scared of your neighbor. And we know the drugs are here. We know when you get into the drug world, what happens. And then when you start with the drug world and you get caught up in that, and sad to say, the guns start coming out. So with that is just supporting, the police and really cracking down on, or calling Crime Stoppers even. And I never thought Crime Stoppers worked. And I was shocked that some people that I know who used it. Crime Stoppers works because I know people are scared in the community, but it takes the whole community to really fight this. So yeah, thank you.
The reason there's guns here is because of the drugs and the cigarette trade. There are gangs out here, Russian gangs, Chinese gangs, all kinds of different kind of gangs. The police are monitoring what they're doing, trying to put a stop to it. We just negotiated this year with our new agreement. We got 4 new officers for last year, which we're trying to fill, and we got 10 for this year. So we're going to get 14 new officers. That's just in this year. Then we got 4 more year agreements. So we're trying to get at least 10 every year. Now we need a new police station because it's not big enough, right? So, but again, we got to get the police officers in there to be able to do this. They already know where these guys are and where the drug houses are, and they close them down, somebody opens up next door, right? And you ban somebody from the community, they come back selling drugs again. We've got to get a handle on that to say, I know it used to be like this in Tuscarora Reserve. If you did something against the community, they called BIA, Bureau of Indian Affairs in Washington, take him off the list. He's no longer a band member. Maybe we should do that. Maybe we should get the Confederacy to do that. Take them off the list, these drug dealers. And maybe some of them will learn. But again, that's very harsh to do, but at some point we're going to have to do something. But again, the guns are there to protect the drug industry. And that's what they're there for. So if you see somebody shooting at each other, it's over drugs usually. So that's why. And I think that's the big issue that we've got to, again, deal with. And I think helping the police get these areas, that's what we have to do. I remember standing one day in the bank, and a woman comes up to me yelling at me. You're on the police commission. Why don't you do something about the drugs? He's arguing with me 20 minutes. I said, let's go outside. So I go outside. Six people come out with us. And I said, okay, are you done talking? Yeah. Let me ask you something. What are you doing? She looks at me, what? You know your son's selling drugs. What are you doing? And she's starting to walk away. Come here. It's not just our job. It's your job as a parent. You know he's doing it out of your house. She walked away, wouldn't answer. So we have to start at home dealing with this stuff. If you know that's an issue, I told my kids, you're doing drugs and I know about it, I'm calling the cops on you. I don't care. Because it's bad for you and bad for the community. So we have to start focusing on that. Sorry I'm wet-winded, but times.
Okay, we've got a quick one here. Somebody wants to know if you believe the election code needs to be revamped, and if so, why?
Is it my turn?
Yeah.
I was hoping the last election code committee would do it, revamp it, but they didn't. They spent like 8 months, and they came up with 10 questions they sent out to the community, and then when they had to vote, they had 5 questions. When I was chief polling officer, I went to them and said, here's what the community is telling me. They want change. They want the districts back. They want 12 councillors. They want, what else was there? There were about 6 things that I told them that's what the people wanted in the community. That's what I was hearing. And they didn't do any of it. They did the 12 councillor ones, but that's basically it. And then they were trying to change the election, the polling officer, chief polling officer. I said, that's council's role. Right in the code, it said, chief and council picks that person. Darren picked him. And, that's not the way it's supposed to work. So if you have policies in place, you've got to follow your policies or change it. But you can't just break the policy because you think it's the right thing to do or because you want to run everything. That's not the way it works. So I think there's going to be some changes in that code again. I think the 3-year term would have been better than 4. I don't know if I like the idea that, you can only run two terms and then you're out. Because we've had some good councillors in the past that have been there a long time, and they've done a great job, and I think you end up losing them. See, the next election, none of these councillors are going to be there. They're all gone. They're done. So we're going to have a whole brand new slate of hopefully they're young people, coming forward. And who's going to be there to say, this is how we used to do things? You know, there's nobody going to be, well, there'll be a few, I guess, but majority of them won't be. And that's the problem we're going to have for the next election in 4 years. Because all the ones sitting there now can't be there again. Unless the three new ones that ran get in, and they continue. But yes, so I think there's going to be major changes, David. We could do it very easily. I mean, those questions they came up with, I could have done them in an hour. Didn't need 8 months.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, so with the election code, for sure, and I think some changes need to be changed in asking the community. And you're right, there should have been more questions. And how many of them wanted districts, or how many, the 2 terms? Because what if people are doing a good job, and you're right, there's not gonna be many left that'll be able to run next time. So I think with that, and people like the districts. I still get calls, who can I talk to you, or you're not in my district, and trying to explain to them that there's no districts anymore. So it's really getting out there to the community, and for the community not to come to you, I guess, is you go to the community and really ask those questions. What do you want in that election code? How do you see it in that? How do you see it? Because I think the bottom line is, again, that election code's for the community and who you want to sit there and represent you, and how long you want them to be sitting here in this at this table. So, thank you.
Ready. So we are coming up to it's 7:53, so we're coming up close to 8 p.m. when we're supposed to be stopping this part of our evening and handing it over to any councillors that are possibly running and want to come up and say a few words. But I wanted to ask you both a question. And it has to do with why you're sitting here and running. You think of all the questions that have been brought forward here this evening. You think of all the issues that are facing this community and the challenges that we are facing. Steve, you mentioned, looking back 29 years and since you were last here, and let's face it, you're a successful businessman. You've got, your life in order, and you could step aside and not be here.
You're right.
So why? Why are you here?
Well, one of the reasons, Dave, Bill Montour and I were very good friends. At his funeral, they called me a sidekick, but anyway, I've never been called a sidekick before, but anyway, Bill was on me, he wanted to nominate me for chief. I said, Bill, you come back to the community and nominate me. Well, he died. He didn't do that. And I looked around and saw what's happening in the community. I said, look, I love this community too much. I can't let it go down the way it's going right now. People are divided. Things are going bad. Sure, I could retire. I could have retired last year. I could retire next year. But no, somebody told me I'm a guy for glutton for punishment. It doesn't matter what I'm going to do. It's going to be wrong. I'm not going to make everybody happy. I understand that. But I'm going to do the best that I can for the community. I'm here for the community, and that's what I'm here for. I don't need to sit here and try to get more money out of council for me. No, I can retire and enjoy my life, go golfing when I want. If I get elected chief, I'm still going to go golfing the odd time. So just so you know. But again, like I said, I love this community. I didn't want to see it going down the drain. It looked like it was going toward the municipality area because you're hiring so many people. You have over 900 staff, almost 1,000 staff. I don't know where they are. I don't know if they're living at home, working from home, or how they're accountable or anything else. So those are the things I'm really worried about. And like I said, there's people out there that are working for us. I'll give you an example. The septic guy that cleans out the septic systems. There's only one working. There's not enough money in the budgets to hire more. They don't get paid enough to do that job. But it's an essential service that they have to have, like public works. They go out Christmas break, everybody's on holidays, they're still plowing the roads. They're out there all the time. But do they get paid enough? I don't think they do. They should get better payment so they can understand it. Even the daycare workers. Daycare has to stay open because people are still working. But they can take their vacation, better time, different part of the year. Instead of having it in winter, they might take a longer summer vacation. But there's still options for them. But I think we have to be able to start paying people what the service is for, what it's worth. If you're a septic guy and you're doing a job and council's getting money for your job, then why aren't you putting it back into those people that are doing the job? I don't want to ever do a job like that, I'll tell you right now, because that would not be fun, going home smelling like that. But again, you know, some people are good at it and some aren't. But again, that's what we have to do.
Wrap it up, Steve.
Thank you. I am done.
Thank you. Okay. Sherry Lynn, same question for you. But as a woman, you're one of the, I think, one of 3 that have been running for this position. And you're going to be in a male-dominated environment. So why put your name forward? Why come forward and throw yourself, as we mentioned, all the challenges, all these issues that are facing the community? What draws you here? Why are you sitting here and going forward with this?
And I just think it's time, because when I first got into council, I didn't know nothing about council. I had no idea. And I threw my hat in the ring is because I went in front of council, and council told me I resigned from my job at New Directions. And people were still coming at my door asking for help, trying to kill themselves. I went to council at the time, and I had a crack user with me. And I said, please, will you guys get them helps? I'm only a Band-Aid, like, coming here. And they said, Sherry Lynn, there's no drug and alcohol problem here. And I said, oh, okay. And then another counselor said, what if I want some crack? Where do I get it? And I chinned the lady that was with me. She goes, how much you want and how quick you need it? And I was just like, wow. So I went home and I told my husband at the time. And he goes, well, Sherry Lynn, you're gonna do something about it, or it's gonna continue if the leaders there think that there's no drug and alcohol problem. So I threw my hat in the ring, and that was 10 years ago. And I've learned lots over the years. I've learned so much about standing up for our rights. I've learned so much about how governance works and how everything is in the 10 years. But most of all, my heart's in the community. I've touched a lot of families and helped a lot of families. And with everything that's going on in our community, I listen to them. I bring it forward. I want change for them. It's not all about always, you know, the monies and all this other stuff. It's about the people. It's about why there's no hope here, or why people are so down. That's why I'm sitting here. I'm sitting here to make change, but to make change on a social level, but also on an economy level, but on the government level also. And I'm ready for that challenge, and my family knows I'm ready. I have 3 kids and 6 beautiful grandchildren. And I'm just ready for the challenge, but most of all, and I'm ready to give action. What I say is action, and to help people and give them answers. Thank you.
Now for that. We're right at 8 o'clock. Wonderful. Could we please give our candidates a big round of applause?
Thank God. I can go back.
And also, please give yourselves a big round of applause for bringing forward all these incredible questions that you brought forward for these candidates tonight. Come on, big round of applause for yourselves.
Come on, you're pretty terrific out there.
So, thank you to both of you.
And good luck.
And good luck, yes. At this point, we'd like to welcome any councillors that are running who would like to come up and introduce themselves and say a few words.
And we know that there's 13 of you, or we wouldn't be in an election. So if you're a councillor candidate, please come up.
Steve and Sherry Lynn, just before we finish with you, I would like to ask, would you be willing, if possible, to find the time to come in and sort of continue this a little bit at the radio station, CKRZ, to fill this out and flush this out a little more? Thank you, Steve. Sherry Lynn? Okay, thanks.
Okay, if the councillors would like to come and sit down, we'll just kind of move out of the way. But I will time you.
Okay, we'll just let you introduce yourself. Yep, all the mics are available.
Oh, me? Okay. Okay, I wrote out my notes because I thought there's so many topics that we can all talk about, so, okay. Okay. Okay, my name is Hazel Johnson, and this will be my 4th term if I am successful in this running. I am thankful that I am supported by my family to run in this election. And actually, this will be my final term as well, because according to the election code, this will be my last run. I have a large family who are my husband and our 3 children and our in-law children. I have 11 grandchildren and 20 great-grandchildren. There's a lot of people in our families. We come from big families. So after working for the Six Nations Council for 30 years, all during that time, you gain knowledge, you learn how to converse with people from the government agencies. You have to solve problems for employees so that things don't fester and become worse and worse. You have to keep in mind with staffing, that every staffing issue, that people are all given fair chances. There's no who you are or things like that. There was no HR department when I was first hired at council. And in 1992, I guess Mary Bloomfield started thinking about retiring. And at that time, I was a payroll clerk, and she wanted me to start thinking about taking her role when she left. So I told her I would do that, and I was eager to learn. And she took that message to the council, and the council backed her up. So therefore, I started out as a HR administrator, it was called. Then as we grew, it was nowhere near like a HR department should be. So it grew with all of the departments within there. So there was never a health and safety committee. And I was directed by the director of operations at that time to begin the health and safety program for Six Nations, because they had been given a fine by the WSIB Workwell, and they had a $90,000 fine that they had to pay simply because they didn't have a health and safety committee. So therefore, that became my job, and it was quite interesting because we started with nothing, and we developed the best health and safety committee for Six Nations and the employees. We had an overall big health and safety committee, and then we narrowed it down to 4 separate subcommittees. And all of the infrastructure had to be monitored, and that was done on a regular monthly basis. So therefore, you were always on the, like looking for things that could become a problem and hinder people's safety in the workplace. And the theme of the health and safety was that everybody would go home safe at night. So that was a big success for us. So the health and safety, or the Human Resources Department is responsible for payroll, health and safety, employee benefits, human resources policies and procedures, and hiring, recruitment, and training. So that department that we operated, we finally were able to get a few more employees, and there was about 4 of us at first running all of those necessary parts of HR. I must say that in thinking back, that you never seen a hiring list like you do in a paper now, where you got a page and a half of jobs that they're waiting to fill. We were consistent. When there needed to be a job filled, we did it as quickly as possible, because when you ever hold up a department in their progress to do what they have to do, then you're not helping them with what the need is. So that's a part that I always liked, and that's when I thought, whenever I'm going to retire, I'm going to run for council. So I've been running now, this is my 8th year, I'm just finishing. 30 seconds. And I just want to say that I wish all the people who are running for council, it's not an easy task. It takes a lot of time, commitment, and every person on this reserve deserves respect, help whenever they need it. And when you're in that position, make sure you live up to the promise that you make of those codes. Thank you.
I'll go next.
Sure, I can. Melba Thomas is my name, a lifelong member of Six Nations. Couple of boys that I certainly own, and they're well grown, and 4 grandchildren. I certainly request your support and vote to represent all Six Nations people. And my title is Caring for the People. And when you heard the candidates for chief, that's everything they said was for the people. And that is my title. And I believe that's what I've been doing for the last X number of years. I began community work in 1970 when we realized that it was necessary to certainly take forward what the community needed at the time, and of course that was an arena. So I served as Women's Auxiliary President at that time, a little fundraising, and continued there. From there, I sat on many committees like the school committee, the health committee, hiring, for example, Ruby Jacobs as a director. So through the years, it's just a requirement of myself is to help. That's the way we should all be, is helping one another. When you see someone needing help, that's what we should be doing. I once suggested that council take in an elder who we focused on for a lot of their needs that was able to be given to them. I still continue that with several elders. I just finished with a couple today and yesterday. And I consider them my friends, and hopefully it's vice versa. So I base my my caring for the people on my employment, education, training, and political experience. I've been with council 19 years and took a little break with working for health services for 6 years in the school system as a supervisor of an in-school counseling program. As you know, I worked for Roberta for 3 years. Certainly learned a lot again, about a lot of political experience related to how we should be caring, again, for the community. So I continue to assist people. So some of my background in education is certainly relevant to helping the people. So I have a listing, if you have my paper, and I have distributed it to the entire reserve, or it's coming if it hasn't been in your mailbox. So I have a lot of background in supply teaching on Six Nations, supervisor, as I mentioned, in school counseling, and protecting children. I think that's very important, and it certainly is different now, and there's a lot of complaints. You have to continue to respect the people who require help. And that was interesting when it was mentioned lateral violence, because that is quite common in our community with put-downs, including some of the households, and it seems to be normal for people to relate that way, which is very unhealthy for individuals in the household. So I sit on several committees right now: Language and Police Commission, Hospice. People were wondering what is happening, as Steve said, what's happening in the community concerning the lodge. That'll be built in a couple of years. They're at the design stage right now. And of course, we have so many people suffering from health problems that a hospice is really necessary right here on Six Nations. Some of the priorities certainly are a treatment center. Sherry Lynn had mentioned she's been working with drug and alcohol for years. We need a treatment center. And the councilors also said a detox center. So I had mentioned in the paper that Darren Jameson, before he left, he put aside $7.1 million. Now we're trying to find that, and hopefully the finance department is going to certainly find that money and start building, because they only accept so many at New Credit, so many of our people certainly need that treatment. Oh, I have to wrap it up, so what more is important too, I think, is our culture and language. In that treatment center, we should have our culture, language, values, our Indigenous ways, our First Nations ways of treating our people. It could be ceremonies, and we also need to also use the Western care for our people. Okay, I'm sorry, I have to quit, but health safety is very concerning to me, of our people, and the elders, as was mentioned. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Carol Leslie Green. I'm 58 years old. I've resided here at Six Nations for, other than going to school, or sometimes I had moved out to Fort Erie and gave my children an experience off reserve, just to have that, where they cross over instead of waiting until they got to finish high school to work and be around people who are non-Indigenous. We came back here, and my whole life has been in the serving sector, which means in the advocacy for Six Nations people, and sometimes it was for I was a personal support worker, so working diligently with our community, and whether it was like the palliativeness, are sometimes disabled in our elderly community, and I loved it. And when I was doing that work, I said, wow, there's so much more that is needed for them. So I went back to school and to become a social worker. And in doing so, I came back to also help in the area of advocacy. And in that advocacy, the first thing I saw was was as soon as somebody passes in your family or is no longer employed or that financial is no longer there, they are impacted very, very highly. Just like they talked about when they were sitting up here, that the seniors need our help. That is absolutely 100%. And I agree with that. I agree with the wellness checks. Everything that everybody does from health services, they reach out into them. The nurses, they go out there. The frontline workers, they're exhausted. I know they are. How can we help them? And that's where our community is going to be able to talk back to us about what they see, because we want to hear it. I want to hear it. I do. And before I say anything else, these men and women that have held these positions for the 20 years plus, thank you. Thank you for holding Six Nations together with us. I really do appreciate you. Like, my father was a councilor, John Stotts, and he just loved this community as much as I do. And so I'm going to give you 100% of me in service in whatever it is that you need as your councilor for Six Nations. There's not much more I want to tell you other than I feel like I will be your servant if that's what you would have. In whatever capacity you need my help, I'm going to be there. Okay. Thank you.
Hello. I'm Jennifer Murdoch. I lived on Six Nations all my life. I have 6 children and 4 grandchildren. I just lost my husband a couple years ago. I was with him for like 40 years. So it's a big life change for me. And when I came up to being asked to be, they said, oh, why don't you run for council? And I'm like, really? And I thought, yeah. And then I start remembering all the things that I hear from our community, what they need and what they don't have, and how can they get help and where do they get help. And I thought, yeah, that's what we need to do, is be helping our community, helping our elders, helping our youth, helping the working poor. That's me. It's everybody needs something. And when I worked for council for 20 years. I worked in health services, working with the elders, and it was so rewarding because I didn't really have any. My grandparents and them had passed, so I didn't have that. So it was really good to be able to communicate with them, feel good about helping them. And like Melba says, we all need to do it together. It can't be one person or us saying, oh, that's your job, so you got to look after that person, or that's your job. It's all our job. We should all love each other and, look after each other. I am so proud to be part of Six Nations. I don't care what it looks like. It is that I'm the highest person to say, like, whoa, this is Six Nations and we're the best. Because we've all had to live through everything, the good and the bad. And I would like to see more services put in. Like Sherry said, like more longer, like we get 8:30 to 4. Well, a lot of the things happen after 4 or on the weekends, and then people get left. A lot of the drugs in our community, we all need to respect them and have them, there's some reason why they're on drugs. It's not just because they want to be high, and I think that's what we need to look at. Look at our grief and our trauma in our community. Every week, practically, someone passes, or somebody got injured. There's a loss, there's a grief, and then we just keep moving on, and that's what the world expects us to do, is just keep moving on. And it's nice to hear that we have our elders that bring the experience. Like Steve talked about all these years that, he's been worked on council, and all his education and his experience that he has, but we still need to move forward. We also need to respect the past, but times are changing, and they're changing fast. And if we don't, keep up or try to look ahead, then we're going to get left in the dust. And I don't want that. We can go and fight with the government and say, you're going to give it to us, and they don't. Then what are we going to do? Who's going to pay for us then? Who's going to provide them services? Who's going to pay for them 1,000 people if the government says no? And as Six Nations, are we ready to come together and stand up to the government as a whole and say, no, This is what we deserve. This is what you owe us. This was ours. And you need to, you need to stand up and say that to them. But we all need to do it, not just 12 people, not just one chief. We all need to do it, all of Six Nations, in order to see a change. You're not going to see a change very well with just 12 people, when there's thousands of us. And we all need to stand together as united. And I know we can, because we all want something. And we all want to have a good life. We all want our future life, our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren to have what they should have. Our education is rough right now because of COVID. And I sat out there and I listened to the chiefs, or going to be elected, one of them, and they talked about the elected council. And I don't think any other elected council has went through what this one has. Have any of them ever went through a world epidemic like COVID? And then sit there and, say, oh, well, they didn't do this, they didn't do that. Like, how could you? How could you when the world shut down? It wasn't just Six Nations, it was the whole world shut down. And we made it through with very little death. I know it's sad that some of them did go, but the world figured we were wiped out. But we did have some guidance. So I wanted to say thank you for them for standing up while the world was closing down. And I want to stand up while the world is coming back up and speak for all of us. Okay, I'm done.
Thank you, David. Can you hear me at the back? Yes. My name is Elena Venevri. I am running for a councillor position. Pick this up at the back, a little bit more info. I'll try to be brief and efficient. It's the end of the night and we all want to get home, I'm sure. The first question I'm always asked is, why are you running? This will be my third general election attempt. The reason hasn't changed. It's because, like all of you, I have identified the issues and they mean a lot to me, and I think that I can make a difference. I pared down what would be a platform, I suppose, to one word, which is wellness. If you think about all of the issues that we face as individuals and as families and as a community, I think you can tie all of them back to wellness and a lack of it in certain systems, in certain organizations, in families and in individuals. And that is not to say it's anybody's fault. It's to say that that's what we need to work on, is our wellness. So my promise to you is not anything to do with roads or anything in particular. It is that while I'm sitting at the table, the first priority is to make sure that there is wellness and that we are trying to reach a level of wellness where these things take care of themselves, where families are not looking for assistance and are told that it's a 6-month waiting list for therapy, where you can just, at the drop of a hat, help a family member or a friend find help for addictions. And those are the things that affect us all. When I do my canvassing and when I talk to people, I ask what you love about the community. And it's one of the hardest questions for people to answer. And it takes a long time because there are a lot of things that overshadow that. What makes you feel like this is a community? We can talk about history and how everybody knew their neighbors. That made it feel like a community. You might not know that. Know your neighbor now. One promise I will make to you tonight, and it addresses one of the questions that the chief candidates were asked, is communication. I promise that I will bring back monthly meetings. If you remember district councilors used to have a monthly meeting. So they would hold it, Helen, I attended a few of yours, and Ray's, and that made it feel like more of a community. It's a neighborhood. People would come together and talk about what was happening monthly. I'll do that myself if I have to. That's a promise that I can make to you, and that's the only one that I'll make to you, other than I will sit at the table and I will advocate for wellness. I will advocate for everybody's needs that comes to me specifically to tell me about what you are concerned about. I'm concerned about individuals. I'm also concerned about us as a community and lobbying the government. I can travel, love to drive. I'll drive to Ottawa once a week if I have to. And I don't see a lot of that happening. That's what we need. We need to be knocking on that door and making sure that the government is held responsible for what they owe us and our needs, and those need to be fulfilled. Not 6 months from now, not 12 years from now, right now. So I'm asking for your support. This Saturday is an advanced poll, and Saturday, November 4th, will be the general election. If you would please consider striking my name on your ballot, because I will work for you. What I believe is that the people that sit around the council table are your employees. 30 seconds. You are the employer. So I view it that way. I have always viewed it that way as a community member, and I will view it that way sitting around the table. Thank you so much.
My turn? Is this thing on? Well, I'm glad to see everyone here, and I'm glad to know that people are listening online. I'm not going to talk about the issues too much because I think Steve and Sherry Lynn did well on talking about the issues. I've been on council for 20 years, and in that time I've worked under 4 different elected chiefs and learned so much from each one of them. I worked under Dave General, I worked under Bill Mentour, and I worked under Ava Hill, and I worked under Mark Hill, and I learned so much from all of them. There's a myriad of issues that we have, and I've learned a lot of knowledge about all of the issues, and I've learned very much about how government works and how government's always trying to screw us around. And I think it's really important to know the government side of things because we often go to government and we have to talk to them and all that different things like that. But what I want to talk about is age. I turned 80 years old last week, and I'm hearing that some people are saying, I'm hearing that some people are saying they're not going to vote for me because I'm too old. To me, age is only a number. What should matter is whether I'm doing a good job or not. And that's what should only count when people come out to vote. I still have a lot of fight left in me. I have a lot of spunk in me. I can be real nice, I can be not real nice if I have to be. And I'm not afraid to speak my mind, and I'm not afraid to tell people what I think. Hazel McCallan was 96 years old when she retired as the mayor of Mississauga. And the reason she was the mayor for something like 40 years is because the people saw that she was doing a good job and they kept voting for her. So you really have to look at what is a person doing, whether they're doing a good job. That's the most important thing to me, I think, in voting for anyone. It doesn't matter whether you like people or not, or whether they're your favorite person, but if you think they're doing a good job, if you think I'm doing a good job, or any one of the older councillors, then please vote for us. Council needs to open its doors and be inclusive of the people. For years, I've been raising issues with in-camera meetings. I've noticed that in-camera meeting agendas are too often longer than the open ones. And it's been especially so, I think, in the last 4 years. And that isn't right. It's not right that people are not allowed to know what's going on. I'm a firm believer in that people have a right to know. In-camera meetings do two things. They keep people from knowing what is going on, and they keep the councillors from telling people what is going on. So the bottom line is we shouldn't be making decisions behind closed doors. Decisions that involve the community, decisions that could impact the community should not be made behind closed doors. People need to know what we're doing. And and like I said, it's a fight I've had, I think 20 years I've been fighting that. And I'm losing. I found out this term of council that I'm losing. But I'm gonna keep fighting. I'm gonna keep fighting. You know, at election time, we hear a lot of words about accountability and transparency. But seems when the election is over, people forget all about being accountable and transparent. So that really needs to stop, and we really need, if we say we're gonna be transparent, then let's be transparent. I get in trouble a lot of times for being transparent, for saying things I shouldn't be saying, or for telling the community something that I shouldn't be telling them that I learned at council. I get in trouble at the table. And in terms of what has been talked about already by Elena and Stephen, communication. We got to do better with our communication. We got to, how many? 10. Oh, communication. We got to do better communication. We got to give our communications department the budget that they need to do proper communication, and they need to use all the resources that we have out there. I want you all to vote for me because you think I'm doing a good job, not because I'm Helen Miller, Councilor Helen Miller, and I've been sitting here 20 years. I want you to vote for me because you think I'm doing a good job.
Hello, everybody. Well, first I want to say thank you for all of you for coming out here and taking time out of your day. Also for all of you tuning in right now watching this. We have been here for quite a long time. So, my name is Dean Hill, and I am 25 years old. I have lived on this reserve my entire life. A little bit about me is that I'm a certified personal trainer, and I've been personal training our community members, various community members, for over 10 years now, currently. And that is one of the major things that does bring me at this table currently right now. I came up here and wanted to run for council for a couple of reasons. And a few of those reasons were actually touched on when we were discussing with the chiefs and all the questions that were asked. But it's still surprising that a couple of topics that I wanted to be here for still weren't touched on at all. So it just kind of reassures me why I think I should be here. One of them, first off, is health and fitness. All right, that is one of the major things that I believe is damaging our people a lot more than I think people realize. Not only just from my peers at all, but just from elders and everybody else that I've seen in the community as well, that we really have to realize that diabetes, heart disease, and those type of health conditions that dictate our life and quality of our life are very rampant. They really are. And the thing about those is that they are preventable. They really are, especially type 2 diabetes. And it all boils down to activity, nutrition, and I understand a lot of people want to do that. I've trained over 40 plus community members so far during me doing personal training. And it is, lots of people want to do it. Now it's just accessing the information, right? A lot of people say it's risky and they don't want to hurt themselves and so forth, but everything's risky. Life is risky, you know what I mean? We're not gonna make it out alive. That's how risky it is. So we really have to put some emphasis onto this and give this topic value. We really have to look at it and say a lot of the stuff that it does for us, not just physically, if you want to be in shape, that's fine, but it also affects us mentally as well. We have to realize that the accomplishment that you feel after doing physical exertion is irreplaceable. It's equivalent to drugs. It really is, except it's naturally produced within our body. And that's something I feel that a lot of people have not experienced, and that is very unfortunate. So that is one of the main reasons I'm standing in front of you today and speaking. The next reason actually is technology. So that was something that really wasn't touched on at all. I mean, I think it was fairly evident during COVID how important technology is, especially when everyone had to stay home, everyone had to do Zoom. I'm sure a lot of people didn't know how to do that type of stuff, but that is the reality of our world today. Like that's where we are. I know a lot of us like to reminisce and remember our history and maybe want to continue to do a way that worked maybe 20, 30 years ago, but at the same time, it's not today. We can't continue to hold our community members back by not investing or learning technology. Okay, we don't have to master it, we don't have to become the best at it, but we at least have to accept it, that this is a part of our life, and it's gonna be a part of our life moving forward, especially as a youth, and it is very important in every sector you could possibly think about, whether it's finances, education, school, everything. Technology makes the world faster, it makes it more efficient, and that boils down to some of the topics like communication. For example, there was no promotion on the Facebook page about this type of stuff from Six Nations to Grand River. And that's just right there, just kind of a little bit mind-blowing to myself, considering that that's what people use for news, right? And it is very fast, our world. It's evolving even faster, whether we realize it or not, and it will continue to go fast. And outside of the reserve is already adapted to it. You can witness it in Brantford, Hamilton, Toronto, wherever you want to look. It feels like the reserve isn't quite keeping up to date with it. And I feel that that's the perspective I can bring to this council moving forward in this year. So then again, it is up to the community. It is up to your choice whether we want to go this direction or not. So once again, my name is Dean Hill, and thank you very much, everybody, for your time.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Dale Bomberry. Some of you may or may not know me. I've been an employee for, I guess 4 years ago, I was an employee for council for approximately 20 years, or just under 20 years. I first started out as a director of public works, where I was there for 7 years, and then I moved over to the, at that time was called the senior administrative officer position. And I was there for just under 14 years. So being in that role, it was a very time-consuming role, and you became aware and involved with numerous things from infrastructure, health, and social. So when I retired from council, people had asked me to think about running, getting back into it, and I never thought about it. But they always said, you got a lot of knowledge, you got a lot of experience, you've dealt with a lot of things, you've seen a lot of things, and bring that knowledge back to the community. I know when I went to school, I got my bachelor's degree in public administration, to use that education to make things better. I know administratively, we've done a lot of things to make things more efficient for the operation of a council, but also to make things more efficient for the community members. And as you can see from the discussion with the chief candidates and the number of issues that were put forward, you can see there's a lot of issues that the Six Nations Council deals with. And I know one of the things we had talked about in health was, one of their mottos was from birth to death, to provide that service. And that's what I guess council has to deal with, because the decisions that will be made will impact everybody's life from the start of their life right up till the end. So sitting and taking this role and then not being nominated is not something I take very lightly. And I admire everybody who stepped forward, because it is going to take a lot of commitment, a lot of time to deal with the issues, to find out the facts. And that's one thing about me is I always want to know the facts before I make the decision. I don't just jump in and fly off the handle and make a decision. I like to know the facts. And once I make the facts and whatever's going to be beneficial for the people, for Six Nations in this role as a councillor, then I think that's what's going to happen. I know it's not going to be an easy role to do. It's going to be very time consuming. I know there's going to be good times. I know there's going to be bad times, but that's going to be part of the job that we're going to be taking on if we're all voted in to sit on the 59th council. But again, it's going to be time consuming, and I know it's something that I don't take lightly. And people were asking me, well, what's your campaign? What are you gonna promise? Well, I wasn't gonna make a lot of promises other than doing the role of being there for the community, making decisions for the community that's good for the community, and not just a certain sect of people, but the whole community, because I know a lot of discussion happened with communication. And I think that's one of the biggest things that we do need to do is communicate and come to the viewpoint that we are one community. I know there's the Confederacy, I know there's elected council, and there's different sectors within the community, but regardless, we are one community. And the decisions that we have to make is for that one community. So one of the biggest things I want to see is to have us come together as a community so that things can be done for our community. I know it was mentioned earlier about the Confederacy and elected council getting together. I know it's always been said for numerous years that if they ever got together, they would have so much power and influence so that they could benefit the community as a whole. So I know I didn't make a lot of notes here, but I know it's a job that I'm not going to take very lightly. I'm going to be very responsible. I'll be diligent, and coming to meetings is not an issue. Dealing with the issues won't be an issue, but I do make every effort to find out all the facts and everything before we, as a community, and hopefully we can, as a council, come to that same mindset to know the facts before we make a decision. Again, my name's Dale Baumberry, and then I'm seeking a seat for the 59th general election. Thank you.
I want to stand up. Good evening. It's so good to see you all here. Those in the room and those out there, I know they're all watching and listening. Cynthia Jameson. I was bred, born, raised, schooled, and still living, I'm still living, on reserve here. And I'm so happy to see you all and that you have all turned out for this evening and out there in the airways. I think that's wonderful that we can connect with so many different people, not just simply in this room. And I so look forward with your support of going forward, moving forward together. And essentially when I'm listening to everyone, that's the general message I heard. And I look forward to working with that team going forward together. Because we matter. We matter. You matter. The collective matters. The individual matters. I believe one of the prime responsibilities, and it's a trust responsibility held by the council, is to fight for our rights as a collective. And some of you, when you have spoke tonight, have mentioned something that's missing. And it's been brought to my attention when I've been going, like many of you, throughout the community. It's been brought to my attention. This thing that is missing is unity. And they're speaking about the unity with our, not only our elected officials, but with our roots. That's our roots. Whether you go to Longhouse, you go to church, that system is our roots. And think a lot of the councils previous have done so much to protect our rights, the collective, the rights of the collective, so we, can enjoy those rights as individuals. Think how strong we'd be. They'd be fearful in Ottawa, Toronto. They'd be so fearful if we could find a way to have a meeting of minds with our roots, that is our Confederacy Council and the elected council. They would tremble. And I think that would be so good, but that was something I heard going through that's missing. So I very much look forward to, if elected, representing you and going forward together. Something also I look forward to and I very much believe in is that we need to meet, just like before, when you'd go to someone's house and they'd say, they didn't call me Cynthia, it was Cincinnati, you stay and break bread with us. Because we shared around that table. And when you sit around a table and you break bread together, there is a sin energy that is achieved. That council, those of you that had the fortune to be able to sit around together before the advent of COVID and Zoom, you could feel that energy. And it's a collection of thoughts, not to outdo one another, but to be quiet. One of the greatest skills in communication is to dodik. Really it is. And that's how, I think someone asked, you build unity around the table. Is you dodik, and you listen, take heed, and don't just be quiet so you can come up with a clever comeback. Because if you take a bit of what everyone is saying and you don't close your mind, we can do wonderful things together. And I know we're very limited, and you guys have been so patient. So I'll bid you adieu and look for your support. Cynthia Jameson, thank you.
Sego Sewa Goyo, Yakali Honyani Youngyats. My Mohawk name is She Teaches. My name is Audrey Paulus Bomberry, and I'm so glad you all came out, and I'm glad this is being live streamed. For that, I thank you. I see a lot of my neighbors and a lot of my friends here, so that's wonderful. And a bit about me and my personal life. I'm married to Jim Bomberry. We have 4 children, which includes Carter, and we have grandchildren, we have great-grandchildren, and we're very, very blessed for that. We come from a big family. I see my 2 sisters are here tonight, and it's wonderful to see them out and support me, and I feel a lot better when there's support from the family here. Oh, and lots of my other friends too. Just had to look around. So, but back when this all started, I was 42 years as an educator on Six Nations, teacher, acting principal, and vice principal. I finished up at Jameson School, and I loved it there. It's hard to go back because when you walked in, the kindergarten kids would hold on to you and say they loved you, and then I'd start crying and I'd have to leave. So my friend convinced me to run for council. 6 meetings a month, she said. And no, sometimes I have 4 to 5 meetings a day, let alone 6 a month. So anyway, I got used to it. I enjoy it. I enjoy working with my colleagues. I appreciate their views. And we have done so much. But one of our biggest fallbacks is that we did not communicate that well to the community. I noticed that at our AGM, everything came out that we've done, but that's not the time to tell you. I have been advocating for better communication for the 7 years that I've been in council. I said, let's write our own narrative. Everyone says the same thing, but we have yet to write our own narrative. And I think that this council coming in should be doing that. You should be hearing from us what our views are, what decisions we made, and then we work in collaboration with the papers as well as the radio. So it's all good things are happening at council. We had some hiccups, and we worked through those. So right now, I can say that the council that's there now is getting along well. We've got a lot of projects underway, and one of the biggest ones is reorganization, and I think we did it a bit too fast. I think now we have to just put time out on, and let's take a really good look at what we're doing and where we're going. Because the portfolio systems did not work. I do a portfolio of education because of my background with the BA, MEd, Masters of Education, and several specialists. So that's my passion, is education, helping out the school system. So presently, right now, I'm the chair of lifelong learning, and we are advocating for a gap assessment, a systemic gap assessment on our education system, and to see what works really well, and we keep that, what needs to be tweaked, and then recommendations for improvement. And the system will be based, and I see now that it's more based now on culture and language, and that's what we plan to do. We're trying to get the teachers learning the language as well, so that'll be hiring extra casual teachers to spell them off so that they can learn the language during daytime. We have so many plans for us, and we're making recommendations. We have a new hire going out, and she'll be working with the schools to meet with the administration and the teachers to find out what their views are, because you can't have an education system without your staff. So it's been exciting, and it's been a lot of work, and we did get an assessment done on Deloitte, and it was that we need twice as much money for our education system right now, and that's like $2.2 billion over the next 10 years. So that's what we're doing, and we're doing all kinds of work on, do you want a high school on the Six Nations? That will be a recommendation. Do you want a bus system like we used to have with San Martin? That'll be a recommendation, in which case then you need buses and you need a place to store them. So there's all kinds of recommendations coming, and as soon as they get done, we'll pass them by council first, and then we'll send them out to the group here. And it's time right now, so I guess I could have stood another 10 minutes, but I just want to say thank you to Turtle Island, to Linda, and Through the Red Door. Where are you, Through the Red Door? And CKRZ, it's David back behind us. And thank you for putting this together, because it's really good when people can see our views. I really enjoyed listening to my colleagues up there. I wish them all well, and good luck. I appreciate your vote. My name is Audrey Paulus Bomberry, and I had a knee replacement, and it hurts. Thank you. Yep, just turn on.
Good evening. My name is Kerry Bomberry. I've been married for 40 years. I've been ironworking for 40 years. I retired from one. Maybe it's time to retire from the other one. I have 2 boys, 1 girl. For the last, my Indian name is Hongot Dio. I don't know if it means a good person. I got that from the mother-in-law. So I think it means something when your mother-in-law gives you a name like that. For the last 4 years, I've been the contact person for Robert Patterson. He works with Trees Unlimited, and they're the ones that do the spraying every year for the gypsy worms. Matter of fact, he just emailed me again tonight. It's not about the worms this time, it's something else. For the last year and a half, 2 years, I've been a thorn in the side for Public Works, trying to get these roads done. Mike Montour and Vince Longboat. We finally managed to get, I think it was 5 roads done this year. And there's one more road to do. That's from on Chiefswood, from 5th Line to Miracle Man's. That's supposed to be done by the end of October. We'll see how that goes because it was scheduled to be done last year too by the same company. So we'll have to keep on top of that. I'm just starting to get mobile. I had both my hips done. Well, one side I had to do it twice because 5 weeks after I got it done, I fell and I broke the same side. So that's why I'm slowly getting around. I had nerve damage and muscle damage. It's slowly getting better. And while that's getting better, my knees are getting bad. So I got knee pads on both sides right now, so hopefully I can get back down those stairs. Other than that, I just hope you consider my name on the ballots. Thank you. Yeah, my name is Kerry Bomberry. I'm from down below.
It will be.
Oh, yeah, thank you everyone for sticking around. I went last because I thought maybe there'd be nobody here. But you're still here. The other thing is that after, my name's Greg Fraser, so after 32 years of practice, I bumped into one of my colleagues, and he said, so what are you doing now? I said, well, I ran for political office. And he said, what happened? Did you fall and hit your head? I said, I think I did. I can't remember. But I would just like to say, I was only in a year. So, and the chief, Mark Hill, he took me under his wing and he showed me the governance game at a very high political level. We met with, for example, well, at first I started off with the Survivor Secretariat, and when I started in September of last year, he wasn't able to make it, so I became a stand-in for him and announced that we had obtained $10 million for them to use to continue their ground search, to be used over 3 years. I was also able to attend the AFN Health Conference, and they were talking about health transformation with the help of Claire, I see Claire here. Again, no representative from Six Nations was there, but I did have the opportunity to speak at the mic, and we were not in favor of this health transformation that is being forced down upon us from the government. The reason being is Not so much was the particulars that was in it, it was just how they promoted that policy and how they were gonna dictate to us how we were gonna operate our health service. So being the largest First Nation in Canada, we were not consulted. And that's a no-no. And I stood up there and told them that. One of the other things is we had a chance to go to the AMO. So that's the Association of Mayors of Ontario. We got a chance to look at, we got a chance to meet with 5 out of 6 ministers. And it's all about building relationships and promoting our agenda. What we're looking for, what we need, using our data, using our reasoning, using our culture. One of the things is environment. I had a chance to chair the meeting with Minister Piccini. In the environment, the issue was dumping, illegal dumping. Illegal dumping on our, so we needed collaboration with them, with their ministry, to also help us identify at the source of off the reserve, where that source was coming from. Target them, as well as it's almost too late when they come here. And then we don't know, we don't have the capacity to check every truck. So he did that, working with our environment. We're establishing a collaboration, a connection. And he respected our views that we need help from the outside, because that's where the contaminants were coming from. We also had a chance to speak with, or I did privately, Minister Kersner, the Solicitor General. We talked about police. We talked about sometimes the difficulties of our applicants getting through the police, into the police academy and getting it through. He promised us at the time that he would look into fast-tracking any applicants that we had that were going to apply, and he encouraged us. He also encouraged us to get our standards written. Standards is a bylaw. That's just another name for a bylaw. We have one with membership. And so, yeah, that was just some of the things that we had. Our excise tax, we're very close to the excise tax. Very close. And also our land claim. I was able to go to all the land claim. And once we get the date for our land claim, I says, then we negotiate. We'll negotiate with proper negotiators, and we're going to win. But we have to establish those relationships with all those mayors, because that's very important. Thank you.
All right, could we please have a big round of applause for all of these Six Nations elected council candidates that have put their names forward. Also, to our 2 Six Nations elected council chief candidates, Sherry Lynn Hill and Mr. Steve Williams. Please give them a big round of applause. They all came forward for us this evening. Also want to thank Linda Palace and Turtle Island News for allowing CKRZ to be a part of this evening and bring this to you both here at the council building as well as to all of you out there in Radio Land and also on the internet. And we also couldn't have done this. We could not have done this without the wonderful technical support of Through the Red Door. So please, let's give them a huge round of applause.
They are just terrific, those guys. And they've stuck with us now through our third election. Way to go, Gary. And I do want to thank you all for coming out and everybody for listening. It's been a new experience for us this year, too, with the online streaming and all the candidates for showing up. We are short one candidate. Amos Key was not able to make it tonight. But otherwise, all of your 12 candidates are here. You have to vote for 12 councillors, so you've gotten a good choice here.
Advance poll on Saturday, and the election November 4th, ladies and gentlemen.
Again, Nyawa, thank you all for listening and for being here.
Nyawa.
Just a second.
Oh, right.
There's some pamphlets at the back to pick up if you want, if you haven't gotten one in your mailbox.
Yes, several of the councillors have
Thanks,
pamphlets
Helen.
on the background table there if you were looking for more information. Nyawa. Good night, everyone.